Welcome back to the Six Invitational 2020 live here in Montreal. That is the last time I'm going to get to say those words, and it makes me so sad that this is the last intro we'll do, but it's ending things on a high. Now, if you were here just before the break, what on earth just happened, Tim? Empire beaten by Fnatic. No one could have seen that coming.
Let me tell you what happened. There's the Six Invitational happened. We have the best teams in the world here, and anybody is capable of beating anybody on their day. We saw it with a great run from Norarengo last year, and it is absolutely, I won't say no surprise, it is a little bit of a surprise. You know, we all expected to see a bit more out of Empire, but fair dues to Fnatic. I watched that game and they absolutely dominated them. It was as simple as that.
Magnet wasn't lying yesterday when he said that they would have a response, because a response they most definitely found, and now they go through as the hope for APAC in this case. Could they do a repeat of Norarengo for last year? Only time will tell. By the way, in this last fixture we will reveal to you at some point what the draws are, so that you know coming into playoffs on Tuesday and Wednesday who is playing against who. But for now, we've got MIBR versus Liquid, and this is a game that you and I covered actually back in December at the OGA Pit Minor. So I'm really interested to see how things have changed since then. Looking at the stats and looking at Pro League, for example, the answer seems to be not a lot. It's still Liquid dominating MIBR most of the time. Do you reckon it's going to be the same again today?
Honestly, my expectation is that it will, but expectation went out of the window in the last match, so who's to say that it won't in the other? I've just remembered we had a little comment about using the word fixtures. Now,
yes, we did.
Around the world, maybe to us, fixture is just a common word, but I don't think it is. There's been a few people asking the question as to what it means. So if you're not aware, when we say fixture, we are referring, of course, to the match or game at hand. So that's that one for you. A little bit of, apparently, a Britishism for you.
It is, yeah. Like in the Premier League, for example, in football, we'll say, oh, there's this fixture going on Saturday.
Or a fixture list.
United and Man City. Great example.
One way or another, this is going to be a fantastic match. We've got the MIBR players up on screen for you there. I'm sure you've probably already seen them. They've played a couple of times over the weekend and find themselves here in the lower bracket final. The winner will continue to the playoffs and the loser go home. We've got Cyber, Bullet, M-King, Hooksword and Novice. They are generally described as the most European of the LATAM teams. They don't always have the same level of aggression and peaks and jump outs, don't get me wrong, they are certainly still there, but a team like Liquid might just put them to shame. We'll have to see which one turns up.
Still need to wrap my head around that whole EU comparison, but of course we can draw whatever comparisons we like once this game has been concluded. Cyber and Bullet, two of the big fraggers, and we know that much from watching them at OGA, from watching them recently in Pro League, for example. They are the ones to watch. They are the ones who will be trying to contest Liquid as they either enter the building or, in some cases, you know, just actually trying to get in the building in the first place. Whatever it comes down to, we'll see how that one pans out. On the other side to them, of course, is Team Liquid, a roster you may be slightly more familiar with, as there are some huge names on this team. Nesk, one of the greatest fraggers in the game, without a doubt. Palette, Moringa, PSK, and Sexy Cake. I've even saved you on that one, so now you can say it again for me.
Sexy Cake.
That sounded far too plain and common.
I've been practicing for the last 2 hours in my room.
I don't bring you here to give me plain and common. I give you here to give you the proper Mancunian Sexy Cake.
Sexy Cake.
That's boring. As the game goes on, you will slip back into
it. Will absolutely slip back, I am sure.
Absolutely. But again, touching on Nesk and Pala, these are two of the greatest players we have seen. Pala, I believe it was, who got the land kill record at OGA?
Land kill record. We don't call it the Pro League record. There was a bit of back and forth about that. That still remains with Citizen.
I think it's,
and you know what? It's absolutely fine to have two records. We have world records, we have Commonwealth records, we have Olympic records. You know, it's absolutely fine to have two. But yes, Pala did set the record on LAN events.
And these are two LATAM teams that have faced each other many times in Pro League. We've seen them facing each other on LANs previously. Let's have a look at what the two teams thought about this fixture.
My name is Sex Cake and I play support on Team Liquid.
My name is Guilherme Scaff, people call me Gilly, and I'm the coach of MIBR.
Against Giants, I think we were more prepared because it's different to play against a team that knows you so well like NIP, because same region, so everyone knows everyone. And Giants never played against us, so I think we were only more prepared for the game.
I think that we were in the game, you know, because against NIP, the first map was so awful, and the second map, I think that was too late to take some retake.
And MIBR, we were just gonna prepare against them. It's Brazilian versus Brazilian again, so we are used to it.
I think that Team Liquid is very tactical, very aggressive either, so of course that will be a hard game, and I think that we will do our maximum, I think 200% to play against our mates of Latam, and basically will be a rematch of Oga Pit in Croatia.
We are waiting, you guys, again.
Well, Team Liquid, it's our time, and I hope that we're gonna win and be on the playoffs. So, wait for us.
Gilly was kind of stuck for words there at the end, not quite sure what to say, but one thing that he did say is 200% effort coming in today. The question is 200% enough for them to deal a defeat to the other side of Team Liquid? Now, me and you mentioned before, these guys are incredible friends. When we were at OGA back in December, it didn't matter when one of them got knocked out or one of them wasn't playing. The other team, rather than being in the back room prepping, was sitting there supporting their friends on making sure that they knew there was someone in the audience backing them. And it was a real heartwarming thing to see. It's not something we really see from EU or NA, for example. So let's hope that now they can still remain friends, even after one of them will now be sent home. Fans are coming in, though.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. You know, they play each other all the time, and don't get me wrong, when they sit behind those screens, I'm sure that the friendships go out of the window.
Hey, it's me in the ticker at the bottom. I just noticed.
Check you out.
Woo, I finally made it, boys. That's the success here. Forget casting.
I feel like the ticker's biased. So, looking at where we're going to throw down for these two, we see Bank and Consulate being banned out. No wonder that Bank has been banned out. We know how good Liquid is on there. Clubhouse and Coastline will come through as the picks, MIBR and Liquid, respectively, in that order. Border will be banned out, and then the final ban will come in from Liquid, which will be Villa, leaving us with a Kafe decider. So Clubhouse, Coastline and Kafe. Couple of gunfight maps, couple of strat maps.
The Kafe, I think, actually really helps Liquid there, because that was the map they managed to beat NIP on. So Liquid went 2-1 against NIP in their first game. MIBR in their second game played against NIP and, well, got slammed a little bit. It came to Consulate, it did end 8-7 to NIP, so it wasn't quite the end of the world. But we'll talk more about that in a second. Let's look at two of the key players that you need to keep your eye on in this game. It's none other than Nesk and Bullets, two of the huge fraggers from this region.
Absolutely, we've seen already what they are capable of. Nesk is quite often touted as one of the best players in the world, if not the best. As I said yesterday, I'd never like to really try and narrow it down to one, because everybody's got their own individual strengths, but he's certainly top 5 and consistently throughout the Pro League existing, essentially. Bullet as well, we saw how well he works with Cyber. If one pops off, so does the other usually, and they are a really great duo between the two of them. We can see similar operators, both on Zofia for attack, and then it's just going to be frags out here. I can just see it coming. We're going to have a real frag fest.
Just goes to show, to be a top fragger in LATAM, you need to play Zofia. You don't be the entry, but you be the one who follows in behind in most instances, as that is the sort of role that you will often see a Zofia playing, being that second entry in some respects of the word. The key thing to note, I think, looking at it, is that the results for Liquid on lands recently have been so much better than MIBR. Liquid, 3rd at the Allied Minor, 2nd at Montreal, 1st at the OGA Pit, and now they're looking to continue that trend of the upwards results here at the Six Invitational. For MIBR, they finished 3rd at OGA. They finished 1st in the qualifiers to get here. Obviously, that's how they managed to qualify. Outside of that, no notable results in the last 12 months. And this is why I have some concern for MIBR, that when it comes to LAN, admittedly the calls weren't on LAN, I still have concerns that against Liquid, they just are not going to be able to stack up. Normal expectations coming through for me from this one, but I'm happy to be pleasantly surprised. Gilly seemed to think there were some surprises to come. There was 200% effort going in there. If it does turn out to be that way, I want to know where the other 100% was hiding this whole time. We're into bans though. Capitao and Thermite, the first two taken away. Thermite we see a couple of times. Hard Breach is always the go-to ban on this map. Sometimes it's Maverick, sometimes it's Habana, sometimes, as you can see, it is also the Thermite.
It's going to be interesting, because we saw Clubhouse yesterday without a Thermite ban, but it looked as though there was one. Maverick coming in and being used so commonly to get those reinforcements off, and that was from FaZe, one of the Latin American teams, so it's potentially something that's a little bit of a trait of the region, so I'm sure that's not going to hinder them all too much. But what we did see, interestingly, was that it had a massive impact on the clock. The attackers were taking so long. We can see Maverick on the board already for Cyber there. The attackers were taking so long to clear those reinforcements off that they needed to, that quite often that was the struggle come the end of the round, was getting things done.
Now, immediately look at the setup from Liquid. It's not quite the full setup, but it is the SSG strat. I tweeted at Lycan, yes, he was like, am I calling this a Lycan strat? And he was like, no, everyone contributed, to be fair. And I was like, all right, then I'll give all the credit to Fultz then if that's the way you're going to be about it. But no, SSG have popularized a very interesting strat recently where you defend all 3 floors. You use the castle to lock off the most of the middle floor. You put the Mute and the Mozzie on the top floor and make them impossible to drone. And exactly as I would expect, you are going to see both of them charge the top floor and reinforce the 2 external facing walls. The idea then is you use all of your jammers and all of your pests to essentially create a media blackout on the top floor. And the risk that you have as the attackers is you cannot ignore this top floor, because what they should also do is open up all of the hatches on the top floor to make it about a 5 to 7 second job to rotate back down to the basement should a push come through. Teams like Fnatic have also taken this similar strat and made some adaptations. They've done things like bring a cap can along to prevent a rush, and that has been the generally standard response coming out of some teams. We saw it yesterday against them, for example. And they use it to slow down the attackers, make them second guess themselves, because it's the case in any game. When there is a cap can on the field, as soon as you find one trap, you know there are 4 more set up somewhere else, and they are very hard to see, especially when in LATAM, like we've seen previously, all the action kicks off in the dying 30 seconds of the round.
Not just in LATAM, but on Clubhouse as well. The combination of the two, I'm sure it is going to happen. Now, we see the clearance coming in quickly. They're going straight into site here. Cyber runs in, absolutely guns Moringa there. PSK will trade that one out, but Bullet, the duo, the partner in crime, as I said, moves in and trades his teammate out. Nesk will get him though, and this is absolutely back and forwards. M-King on to Sexy Cake there, and that will now leave us very, very quickly in a 2 versus 3. Still in favour of MIBR here. Pala will level things up though with 1 onto M-King. Nesk with 1 onto Novice, and that now leaves us in a 1 versus 2, and already we're seeing a match with kills going in like crazy at the minute, backwards and forwards. These teams wasting no time and coming into this match at absolute breakneck speed. 1 versus 2, and Hugzord doing what Hugzord does best and getting that diffuser down. He will make it stick, and that gives him a little bit of play room here just to force these Liquid defenders out and put them on the back foot. He knows where one is coming from. He's holding that angle, but he knows he's going to get pinched if he's not careful, so he just tries to relocate in sight. Can't relocate fast enough, and Nesk will get the kill. That's 3 for him on the round. Great finish from Liquid there. That was a really good adaptation from them, because this is what we keep seeing when we have that top floor defense, is attackers just trying to rush in there. And I've suggested it once, twice myself. It seems to be the most obvious counter to that strat, is to just completely ignore the top floor and force the defenders to come back downstairs. And that's what teams are trying, but they just seem to keep losing those opening gun battles as they're coming in, and so it's not successful. I'd like to see that happen if the site got wiped out. What happens then?
It gave them a lot of breathing room there, because immediately what we saw was Bullet charging into Garage, dropping oil, and then pushing in towards Blue on the east side of the map. They completely ignored Bar. They completely ignored the top floor. They basically ignored the whole setup, like you say. They don't care that it locked down 80% of the map and made it very hard to attack. They just focused on the one area that wasn't reinforced, and they made sure it came out well for them. Other teams have tried sending 5 men straight down dirt, for example, and it's been met with varying success. Generally very unsuccessful, because when you push through one very thin choke, we saw it from Bosco the other day, you just stand, aim at that single choke point, and hold down mouse 1. Anyone that runs into it will be pretty much guaranteed to die, and it gives the rest of the team that crucial 5 to 7 seconds or so to rotate down and make sure they can deal with that push. So a good bit of adaptation. Maybe if there was a bit more attentiveness from Liquid there, they could have caught out those members charging in early, but the hard work was done, and Liquid managed to take round number 1. That now means we are going to head upstairs into the arguably second most common site on the map. Going to be CCTV and Cash. This always starts with a war over this east wall, which you can see Sexy Cake reinforcing now. No gadgets required for the defenders though in terms of electronics. They don't care, because they know that with Thatcher being available, well, it's a pretty fruitless effort at the best of times.
Even with Thatcher off the board, it can still be a difficult one to keep hold of. There's so many ways to clear them out, getting underneath, shooting the ceiling out, and clearing them off that way. It's so many options to get rid of them. As we say, here we go. The Maverick is out, and they will look to clear those reinforcements. So if you've never seen this technique before, basically, you put a Maverick line across the top, across the bottom, and then in a moment's time, you will see that reinforcement drop away, and it basically leaves a soft wall, which can be breached by a Zofia or a Buck, both of which are on the cards. Excellent view of that, thank you, Medics. Just picking that one up. So what's going to happen now is Bullet will look to get himself up there with an angle, or the Buck, I'm not sure which one it is going to be. Novice, very possibly coming across the rooftop there, just to open that wall up. Now that it's soft and it gives the line of sight they need into the objective.
So he's pushing in from the west here, so you're going to see a bit of a pincer attack coming in from MIBR here. What they'll want to do is take over gym and bedroom area, push in towards construction, have full control of that, and likely get M-King to do some work with the Hibana on that side. The Zofia will probably stay on the east here and get that opened up on their side, and then they have a good angle to start going for the push. Now, it was about 30 seconds or so ago that Cyber had done the hard work to make this wall soft, and they still haven't opened it. Finally, it will be opened up, and no one's really set up to push just yet. But the fact that there is now a gaping hole in that wall means that they can hang over the edge on the rappel and cover the angle and make it a lot harder for the members of Liquid to rotate between Garage and the north side of the site.
PSK, an operator to watch out for here. He's kept himself down on the basement level, and I would suggest that he's probably not been drawn out and they are not aware of his presence. So he's just walking as quietly as he can, and he's looking to get himself onto the flank. Timing is going to be everything for him. If he goes too soon, there won't be anybody for him to attack. If he goes too late, he'll either be found or it will be too late. And they'll already be on site, they'll have the control that they need, and all he's trying to do then is essentially assist in a retake. We can see the pressure is mounting from construction. Hugsord is over there helping M-King potentially get this wall open. That's the next plan, is to get that wall open into construction. The top has been opened, but I don't think, yes, we do have the impact nades on Maestro, so he will be looking to impact this. So what happens is, as those X-Kairos pellets go on the wall, he throws the impact nade over the top, it strikes the roof, and then the splash damage will clear those pellets off. That's the theory, but it's just whether that can be successful or not. The impact nade comes over and will not be successful in clearing off the Hibana pellets, and I think we are going to get a hole big enough to move through. Novice getting a kill onto the Maestro at the same time.
Well, the thing is, he's completely uncontested down here as well, so he can basically open up the majority of that floor and start shooting the defenders above. That's exactly what he did to the Maestro. Now, Palo was playing around inside of here, but he's been down by Cyber as they've also taken control of Garage. 3 sides are being assaulted here by MIBR, but they're not even going to have to worry about going for a plant as they wipe out Liquid in emphatic fashion. Very well set up there by MIBR, very much so a checklist kind of set up there and beautifully executed.
Me and Des promised frags, and we don't make promises that we cannot keep. That is what you are going to keep seeing throughout this match. I have absolutely no doubt they were again going in either direction, and this one is going to be just as close. If you've watched any of the games that we've cast so far, you will know that we have a little bit of a trend here, and that is for 12-round matches, and it wouldn't surprise me to see at least one of these maps go all the way to the end and possibly into overtime. These two teams, as we've said, play each other frequently. They have a really intimate knowledge of the strats, of the strengths, the weaknesses, and they are showing each other weekly almost what they do and what they're trying to achieve. So they will be very well prepared for each other, and I would expect this one to remain just as close as it has done in these first 2 rounds.
The last few times these teams have met each other, the recently one was in Pro League Season 11. A, as we call it now, A and B, due to the halves that you have. Of course, the A half has already been completed. B will resume after the completion of the Six Invitational. That was on Villa, and Liquid prevailed 7-2. The time before was 2-1 in a best-of-3 at the OJ Pit Minor that we've mentioned a few times. That saw them playing on Clubhouse. Now, interestingly, MIBR were the victors. They won 7-4, despite some pretty atrocious gym and bedroom defenses, I'll say. They still managed to come out on top. So if history's going to repeat itself, this should be the map that MIBR take. It was their map pick, so, well, you'd be very surprised if not.
Round number 3 then, 1 apiece so far, 15 seconds off the clock, and MIBR still in that information phase really. They'll have the drones out, at least a couple of them I would have thought. They're just getting themselves into position, finding out what the setup is, what they need to act on first. As it stands, we're looking at gym and bedroom, so they're going to want to generally clear off the hot tub wall. That castle barricade there, not only does it protect into construction, but it also potentially protects MIBR if they get to a point where they need to play on the windows. It's one less window that can be quickly jumped out of. But Hugzord says, forget about that. He looked like he was going for a hot breach in. He really did look like he was going to hot breach that. I got very excited. He will blow it as he gets back up onto the roof. I thought we were going to see some of that textbook Latam aggression there with Hugzord just rappelling in through the window as he breached it, but he hasn't. He's moved on and he's taken out more of those castle barricades.
Cinematic siege, as I like to call it, because it's the kind of thing that you would see in the trailers for the game, is someone swinging into a window as you blow it up with the breaches. Wasn't quite to be the case just there. Now, interestingly on this site, normally what you would have is Cyber, or in most cases a Maverick rather than the player himself, looking to take control of the east wall and getting it open so they can protect this window that you just saw on your screen just a second ago, to make sure that none of the defenders can run round to that side of the map and get a nice easy spray through. Thank you very much, Medics, as demonstrating here. And in fact, look at exactly what he has done on this east wall. He's got two lines opened up, so he has that line of fire. He has just rotated away, but if someone stands on that wall, it's a constant threat and reminder to the side of Liquid that they cannot play on that wall. They have to be worried if they're going to try and use that window to assault on towards the attackers. However, after about 2 minutes or so, we have found themselves getting inside of the hallway here and starting to breach in towards bathroom. Now, they missed, by the looks of it, that crucial first setup on towards the bandit batteries. The second EMP grenade we'll see to the end of that. How on earth have they passed each other? PSK, please! Oh, knife, here we go. Beautiful. Love it. Shank to the back and down goes Novice. This is why, ladies and gents, you check your corners.
I mean, you check your corners, you drone, you open your eyes, you do anything in that situation, really. PSK was hardly hidden as he moved in. He just didn't look around and open his eyes. Nesk will get a kill onto Bullet there, so that puts Liquid in a serious advantage now. 5 versus 3, and this is a very difficult site to attack like that. We can see we've got one in cache as well. Hugzord is just being held back there, so effectively now there is only 2 operators for MIBR able to actively push or do any damage towards site, and that makes them sit in ducks. As we can see, Power in Logistics there will get the first kill on to Cyber. The second will come through from Nesk onto M-King, who trades one out, but will not be able to do any more. Hugzord taken off the board. Nesk with another. Nesk having a great game so far. They're going to have to do something to close him down a little bit more, and that is round Liquid.
Pretty good start for Liquid then so far with how things are stacking up. That one round that we saw coming through from MIBR was a bit of a whitewash though. They did charge their way through and basically slaughter Liquid where they stood or crouched or lay. Take your pick based on the general orientation of the players at the time. That round was very textbook from Liquid though, and I think actually very similarly from MIBR. They did the right things. They did the right steps on Clubhouse required to assault that site. And for those that are curious what I mean by that, with Clubhouse, it's regarded by what many in the scene call a checklist map. There are a number of steps you have to take before you can look to go for a plan. So in that round, for example, it was going towards the east wall and getting that opened up with a Maverick. It was then going round to the west and getting that opened up so you could get inside the hallway and start trying to take over bathroom. Also, at the very start of the round, we saw them getting rid of the armor panels on the windows so they could safely have someone play on the south balcony and set up crossfires. It's a number of things that you have to go through, almost like the motions that are required. And of course, the main aim for the defenders is to slow down the attackers in their pursuit of doing so. That was the attempt that they went for just then. Now, for Liquid, we are seeing a similar setup as back in round 1. The SSG strat is being deployed. I know the boys are absolutely emphatic about the fact that they have a strat named after them because, of course, they were the ones who designed it. Why wouldn't we call it the SSG strat? If you remember last time round, we had Bullet charging straight in from Garage in towards Oil, dropping down and then down Blue, which is exactly where our drone is now. So I would expect we are going to see a very similar setup once again from him in trying to take this site.
That's it. The feeling is that teams just don't want to play into it. They know how difficult a nut it is to crack, but at the same time, the answer is not always to ignore it. We can see we've got Castle there just knocking some holes in the wall, just looking to see if he can get a peek through to that stock door. Sexy Cake just hoping to maybe pick 1 or 2 up before he drops back to site. He needs to be careful though, because the Maverick of Cyber has gone in and used those holes in the opposite direction. They always work both ways. Cyber just knocking a new one into the wall there. Sexy Cake completely unaware of that and will be removed from this round. 5 versus 4 now, and MIBR coming out with a strong start on this one. The question is now, how long do Liquid leave themselves up on that top floor before dropping back to site? We can see we've got Power still there up in the gym. He is keen to see if he can get himself a kill and square this away, but now that he's been drawn, he is going to think about how he gets himself safely away from here. He will move down main stairs. The important thing for Roamers is to waste time first and foremost. If they can get a kill along the way, then fantastic, but this strat largely revolves around getting back to site safely as well.
Very interesting how so far, and a nice pretty pattern being drawn in this armor panel there before it's destroyed by Cyber. I love how so far what we've seen from MIBR is actually a very solid approach to tackling this strat. The first time dropping into blue, the second time taking over stock and bashing a hole in the wall to find themselves a kill onto the castle. The castle's whole job is to protect the middle floor so that those on the top can drop safely and rotate back down towards site. If he is removed, that safety net has been removed and the defenders will need to pull back pretty quickly. So although it's still taking them a good minute and a half, MIBR have now got full control and have got themselves a kill on side as well. But just like last round, we need to see them move a little bit quicker here if they're going to make this one successful.
2 minutes off the clock though, and still we've got M-King on the top floor looking for any roamers. It just shows the power of this strat. Even with 2 minutes gone, they're still not confident that they've got that top floor cleared out. And it's interesting that they've played into the strat in a way, because it gives us an opportunity to show you how and why it works and explain that, because they've wasted so much time and now they've got 1 minute to execute onto site where normally you would have 2.5 minutes. So it's just seriously reducing the amount of time that you've got, and this strat is working perfectly for them, and we're going to have a bloodbath in the last 30 seconds.
A good bit of blind faith there from Bullet as well. The drone died, but he knew that the most normal response you will have from a pro player is when they get droned out is to move. You don't want to stay in the same spot lest you get pre-fired or naded or whatever else, but he dropped on that assumption and he was right. M-King also was right in aiming for the head of Moringa as he is now dropped. MIBR had a numbers advantage for a second. It's a 2 versus 2, but Nesk pops off and finds 2 at the end. PSK gets the final one and Liquid take round number 4. The score now sat at 3-1.
I won't take anything away from Nesk there. 2 fantastic shots from him, showing why he has such a strong claim for that title of best player in the world. Such a strong fragging ability, but again, we saw they played into the strat. They were pushing onto site with only 30 seconds remaining. So at that point, MIBR were not really in an advantageous position. They were pushing through single doorways and Liquid were aware of where they were coming from. It was difficult for them at that point, but they had no choice because of the reduction in time that they had to use clearing out that top floor, and that is why that strat is so powerful. Even if you get successful challengers up there, even if you clear those top floor roamers out, nobody can do it quick enough, it seems.
Looks as though Sexy Cake has crashed out, but once he gets back in, we will get the round underway. Caught it with 1 second remaining. Just absolutely perfect, so there is still time, I imagine, for him to get in here and potentially make a pick, or we may have to do a rehost. We'll find out once he gets back into the game. So far, it has come up all colours Liquid, but I will give some credit to MIBR as well. They've tackled that strat twice so far, and although they've lost, it hasn't looked like a bad approach. A lot of teams are still trying to figure out the best way of doing this. It's been some trying to rush down through dirt, as mentioned. These guys have come up with 2 very different approaches so far. You cut the castle out of middle floor, or you just drop into oil and push straight in towards site. So Liquid are definitely being tested here. If they've done their homework and their prep on this strat, or has it been one of those, oh, here's my homework, just don't copy it, make it look different, and then not made it look different at all. It does seem they have an understanding of what the strat is and what adaptations they have to make in the middle of the round to be able to deal with the aggression coming out of MIBR.
Oh, no question at all. I think, they understand what they're doing there, and they've used it fantastically well. They've got 2 successful rounds for a reason, but what I do, I'd look more on the positive side and say MIBR are really probing that strat, and they're getting pretty close. On both of those rounds, they've been reasonably close. That last one was down to a 3 versus 2. It was just due to that lack of time. So if they could essentially just hit the speed 1.5 button on that round in the initial phases and do all the things they did again, exactly the same, and just leave themselves with more like a minute coming onto site at 3 versus 2, then I think maybe they have a bit more success. At that point, they've probably got time to rotate somebody round to main stairs and actually come down and push from all 3 directions. And at that point, things get difficult. If they come down main stairs and can push in through the normal Ash Rush spot into the back of Armory, then, Nesk's got a completely different game on his hands there, because then he's got 1 on either side of him. He doesn't have 2 coming from Dirt Tunnel and Armory door to Blue Corridor. That's why he was able to get both of those kills. It was quite a small flick. He's got 1 just off to his left at sort of 11 o'clock, and then he's got 1 at sort of 2 o'clock. So it's just, that sort of 45-degree movement rather than having to spin all the way around.
I just acknowledge as well, seeing that TY sticker on that little plushie. I haven't seen a TY beanie or beanie, whatever it's called, in about 15 years. I used to have like a collection when I was a kid, and then they just disappeared, and no one bought any, no one sold any, and that was the end of it.
You sound sad about that, Des.
Maybe it's a touching moment as of my childhood that has now been erased, and I feel sad about it. I don't know. On a much more positive note, though, looking at Liquid, 2 of them have got blue hair. They're going for the team colours all the way through.
I like to see that sort of dedication to the team. We know that the LATAM teams are very emotional, passionate teams, and it is, we saw it at OGA. Absolutely no surprise to see them getting right behind the teams in that way.
So what colour are you going to dye your hair, Ace?
Good one.
It's too easy sometimes. Got to give it, though, Sexy Cake. I've got to say, his hair is fantastic. It's blue. It's
majestic.
For the team. Majestic is probably a good way I'd describe him, actually. Yes, I completely agree. We are still going through this technical pause, so just bear with us. Things can get a bit ridiculous, and we could talk to you about rounds that you can no longer see on the screen, or I imagine for some of you it would be like, well, we can't see what's going on, so what's the point anymore? What we can do, though, is anticipate a bit about what happens when things swap over here. Again, we've seen these teams play on this map before. It ended 7-4 to MIBR. With the way things are going, if we wanted to see a repeat of that, MIBR needs to win a an attacking round, and then go on to basically steamroll their way through the defensive side of things. Last time they defended, Gym and Bedroom was a bit of a mess. I keep on referring back to it because it's a round that I've done a bit of analysis on. It wasn't particularly coordinated. With the way that they're attacking here, though, things are looking better. I'll give them that much.
They certainly are, and I think, if you look at this attacking phase for them, they're against a very good team in Team Liquid, and I think if they can come out of the attacking phase 4-2 down on Clubhouse, that's not the end of the world. And now, if you're maybe a bit newer to Siege, you might be listening to me thinking, why are they going to want to come out 2-4 down and think that that's successful? Well, it's because Clubhouse is quite a defender-sided map. A lot of the sites that we see are not reasonably easy to defend, but they are certainly biased in the direction of the defenders generally, in what we see in terms of win rate. So if they're coming out 4-2 down, they've got themselves a couple of successful attacks, and it certainly wouldn't be unheard of for them to then bring it back on their defensive phase and go 5-1. So then they're looking at a real opportunity to potentially win. They don't want to go any further than 4-2, but I think 3-3, 4-2, I think MIBR would be happy with.
One thing we got sent in just by production a second ago was someone in chat said, to the English guy, could you please take your mic a little bit farther from your mouth? 1, Twitch chat's being polite. What world are we living in? 2, which one of us isn't English? We're both English. There were jokes flying around earlier that we're from Australia or something. I was like, well, definitely not. We're both from the UK. Ace is from Manchester to the north. I'm from roughly central, I guess you could say, from near Birmingham. Thankfully, not the wrong side of Birmingham, though, because their accents sound horrible.
I've adjusted a bit, so we've both adjusted a bit.
Well, that's assuming you were the English guy.
Well, I mean, we've both adjusted a bit, so hopefully that will be better for them.
Yeah. We shouldn't sound like we're screaming down your earlugs anymore.
Give us some more polite feedback.
Polite feedback. Can we also declare a half-hour window in which Twitch chat is nothing but polite? This is like when Twitch plays Pokemon and all that kind of stuff, and it was about coordination and working together as a cohesive unit. I have never seen such unification in Twitch chat before. Never again shall it be repeated. Now, again, just to confirm to you what's going on right now, by the looks of it, there are a couple of issues with the setup from Sexy Cake. It's still being addressed by the admins right now, and hopefully we'll get back into this fixture as soon as we can. We are aware it's the last one. We are aware a good number of you are waiting to see what the full draw looks like for the playoffs, which take place on Tuesday and Wednesday. Of course, 6 teams proceed from those playoffs. The 6 that proceed will go through to the live events on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of next week. I actually quite like how it's spaced out so much this time as well. 10 to 14 days of Siege. Definitely not complaining too much.
Shall we ever run through the groups and see how our memory serves?
Oh, I guess we could.
Do we dare?
Can we ask production? Are they willing to play ball here and show us each group, or?
I mean, if not, we could just maybe try from memory. So
I'm going to call in producer Tom, and I'll listen to what he says in a minute if he says we can or can't. And then
let's get started. So Group A, we have we've seen Dark Zero go through as the overall winners of that group. They picked up 2 wins and went straight through. We expected that Empire might join them, but they didn't. Empire lost out, and Fnatic have actually gone through from Group A. Now, interestingly, Fnatic went through in Group A in SI 2019 as well. So a little bit of an omen there. Thank you very much, production. You are wonderful. So we can see that Empire going through in the first round very well, 2-0 against Fnatic. But we did say, Des, that's going to go down as a 2-0, but it doesn't really show the full story there.
It doesn't, but if you looked at Magnet, one of the players of Fnatic's Twitter before, he was retweeting pictures of Dragon Ball Z powering up and all sorts. It was Goku stood there like screaming like he does. He was channeling the inner anime. Of course, he is a very popular personality in Japan, so that was an appeal both for himself to remind himself it's time to power up, as well as the guys from Japan who were backing him as well. And it was an absolutely incredible fixture earlier. If you want to see underdogs take down last year's grand finalists, that is a game to watch.
Not just take them down, to be fair, they absolutely slammed them, really.
7 rounds in a row they won. The last 6 on Kafe and the first one of the following map, they did destroy them.
It was uncharacteristic of Empire, I will say that, but I will take absolutely nothing from Fnatic. They'd obviously done the homework and played it extremely well. So Group A, we had Dark Zero and Fnatic going through.
Before we get into this, I've had another request from chat. Can we get an example of the accent from the wrong side of Birmingham?
I feel like we're going down a slippery slope here, Des.
Hey, look, we've got to entertain. It's part of our job. So the Birmingham side of things, if you watch Peaky Blinders, the show that you might have seen, that's a bit more entertaining. But the wrong side of Birmingham sounds like more towards the Wolverhampton side. And they'll say things like, oh, you're right, Bab. How's it going? And all that kind of stuff. You're right, me old kidder.
You've just gone into a zone where a lot of our international viewers have absolutely no idea what you've just said. I assure you that it was English.
It was, I promise.
But it's a very difficult regional accent, even for us from England to decipher sometimes.
If you've just tuned in, I promise you we haven't completely derailed the broadcast here and it's become a Brummy stream. It's just because we're waiting for an issue to be fixed with Sexy Kate from Team Liquid.
So looking back towards Group B,
don't
you worry, Ace is here and he's going to bring it back on track. Group B, we saw was labelled a bit one of those groups of death. You know, looking at the 4 teams coming into there, there would have been 4 teams that we may well have expected to be going all the way to the final. You know, if I saw the semi-final lineup being Na'Vi, Space Station, TSM, Rogue, I would not have been surprised by that in the slightest. And I'm talking the ultimate semi-finals there. So it was always going to be 2 big teams who went home from that. We've seen Na'Vi mixed success, really. They didn't struggle so much against Space Station. I don't want to say they played badly necessarily. Space Station, it was a great fixture. It's another absolute classic that we will no doubt cherish from SI 2020. But Space Station really did come out and play an excellent game there and took it 2-1. I have to give props to NA for all their performances throughout Group B. They really have been very, very solid. Na'Vi got a good win against Rogue and then ultimately struggled against a good TSM again today, and Space Station and TSM do proceed to the playoffs.
Na'Vi had a story where they said they were at boot camp, they were working on their mentality, they went back to the drawing board and redesigned their whole approach to the game. Sadly, that redesign was superseded by what other teams were doing. But let's take a look at Group C as well so you can see who proceeded from that. Funnily enough, that is the group that we are in right now. It is the last bracket that still remains to be completed. We've had some pretty good ones in there as well, to be fair. Team Liquid versus NIP back on day number 1 was definitely interesting. NIP, before that match, had beat Liquid in their previous 5 matchups, or fixtures, since you guys have now learnt a new word with us on this stream. So that's now 6 in a row. They are going through and NIP are looking solid. And I'll give a shout out to Sternab as well. He was one of the only guys who said, don't sleep on NIP. Well, they've steamrolled their way through the bracket, dismantling both of the competitors from their region, and Giants not even getting a sniff in there with 2 2-0 defeats. NIP proceed, and the winner of the game that we're currently waiting to resume will be joining them in there as well. I think with this group, it was kind of a Giants are stuck in here with the LATAM teams, and it definitely came out that way in the end too.
Yeah, I think there was an element of that. I certainly think Giants have got more to show than maybe they were able to here at the Invitational, but it was always going to be a very difficult group for them to go into. Obviously, they've just got a new coach in the shape of Gig, the previous Na'Vi coach, so I'm sure over the next sort of couple of months, as we progress forward, maybe towards that Pro League final at the end of the I think the season finishes in about April, so probably somewhere about May. As when we get to that APAC Pro League final, we might just see a slightly different Giants there. They're currently doing very well in the APAC final, but I think we're going to see some real growth from them now that they've got Gig on board. So looking towards Group D, which is the other group that was finished. EU finally did something. EU did something. Team Reciprocity, G2, BDS and Wildcard came into this one. I think it's fair to say Wildcard found themselves a little bit out of the depth and they did struggle in those 2 fixtures. But again, it is all learning points points. There is, no losers here. It's all an opportunity to improve and grow and pick up things from those other teams.
And on that note, Sexy Cake has returned to game. Way, so we're back in very, very soon. But it was kind of funny how Group B was, where you were like, 2 NA teams, 2 EU teams. Surely one of the EU teams gets through, and the answer was no. But from this group, sorry, Rec, you're not coming through on this one. G2 and BDS proceed as you saw. And I said it earlier on, I'm happy that BDS are through as well, but it was one of those things where I was like, if Rec make it as well, it's 4 NA teams, 1 EU team remaining, and all of EU's hopes gets pinned on one team in G2. The champions from last year, the invite team of this time, and thank you very much for sticking with us. That was Ace and Des filling with you for 10 to 15 minutes, and now we can get back into the action. Round number 5, in case you're just joining us, and Liquid so far are running away with Clubhouse. Let's see if they can end the half out strong, or if that break actually is going to give a bit of a favor over to MIBR. The issue that you do have with tech issues sometimes, it gives you a bit of a mental reset. And that flow for Liquid might be slightly broken now. Let's see if they can still retain the strength we saw in those first 4 rounds.
Let's see if they can keep the Liquid flowing, you might say, Des.
You save it for once the filling time is over to bring out something that terrible.
Or you might not say. Looking towards...
I wouldn't say, just you.
I know that people miss Emzo's dad jokes, so I thought I'd just throw one in to keep them ticking over until we see him slightly later in the week. Looking towards round number 5 then, Team Liquid are 3-1 up at the moment, and this is going to be an interesting and potentially pivotal round for the game. As Des quite rightly said, those breaks sometimes when a team has that momentum can just sort of take their foot off the gas a little bit, and it just sort of pulls them, reins them back in, and they just lose a little bit of that aggression. They sat cold for 10-15 minutes, unable to sort of keep themselves sharp, and we just see it impact sometimes. But don't forget, MIBR have gone through the same process as well. But if you don't have that same momentum, you don't have it to lose, so we might well just see a shift in that.
Let's see how things proceed then. Once again, as is tradition for Clubhouse, the war is going through with the Maverick on towards that east wall. 2 hard bridges being brought by them, as you can see, and Novice once again going onto that buck. Now, last time we were on this site, he got downstairs inside a stock with a bit of support from the rest of his team and was making a number of shotgun holes in the floor. That made it very hard for Sexy Cake on the Maestro to sit and play the impact trigger on towards the west wall of construction. Now, one has already been killed, as you can see, and it's Hugsawed down. There is a Kaid on side, and the Thatcher has been killed. The fact he is gone means that those crucial EMP grenades cannot be deployed. They are now going to have to rely almost exclusively on Cyber being able to find them by opening up a couple of holes in the wall and seeing if he can see those electro claws anywhere near ground level. But knowing how most Kaids play, that will not be the case. Baringer has been down, mind you. I'm not quite sure exactly who by, but he is down, he is injured, he is crawling towards safety, and Pala, being the good pal that he is going to res him.
Smooth. And you say that mine are bad. So 5 versus 4. We are coming towards the final minute here. Bullet is just very carefully looking to get himself underneath with that Zofia and see if he can have any sort of vertical presence. I think he's actually aware that he's got somebody down there in bar with him, so he's looking to chase down PSK. Now, PSK had a very good day yesterday. He certainly wasn't quiet by any means, and Bullet needs to be very careful here because PSK did show that he is a very capable fragger, picking up a good number of points for himself yesterday. As it stands, MIBR just feel like they've stalled out a little bit here. They've got the east wall open, and typically, as I say, that Cyber comes in with a great kill onto Moringa and the second onto Palo. We know how dangerous Cyber can be. He's got garage control. The diffuser is going down. M-King is in position, but there's the Nitro, and it will get the kill onto M-King, but not before the diffuser goes down. So now the attackers become defenders as they try to maintain lines of sight on towards this diffuser to prevent the defenders from getting in there and disabling it. PSK will be pushed back at the bottom of Garage. Through the doorway, the Valkyrie comes. He looks to make the challenge. Cyber with one onto Sexy Cake. Nesk will trade that out with one onto Cyber, and that now leaves us 1 versus 2 at this point. And there is still a big job to be done for Novice, but he will get 50% of it done. PSK with a huge run-out attempt there, but now Novice knows he's on the stairs, steps in, and that was a big brain play from Novice. He knew exactly where PSK had to push, so he stepped into the breach, used the single window, and closed things out for MIBR. That was a good round for them.
Not at all to take away from the round, but in the middle of that, you slipped. Your 2 hours of practice in your room of not saying sexy cake the way that I wanted you to slipped.
It was inevitable.
It was inevitable. Sexy cake. I absolutely love it. Probably not as much as Liquid are loving life now, because after that tech pause, well, we have just seen the first win come through for MIBR in a couple of rounds. So, can they end strong and end this at 3-3? Let's not forget that once again, the last time these teams played, it ended 7-4 to MIBR. They've still got the padding room here. They can still afford to lose one more round. As long as they steamroll their way through the defense, there will be absolutely no problems. The big thing that hurt them, I felt, last time round was that the Thatcher, or Hugsword in this case, died very early on. They were without the EMP grenades. However, we are on to the site that I love talking about at the moment. This is as checklist as it gets, ladies and gentlemen. There are going to be windows being opened up on the south. There are going to be walls being opened up to the east. There are going to be walls being opened up to the west. And there is going to be a lot of squirming and moving around inside from Liquid to make sure that MIBR don't get into a commanding position where they can push and go for the execute. It was Liquid who back in December had a beautiful attack on here. They had 2 set up inside a bathroom, which you can see to the left of your screen now. They had 2 playing on the south windows, and it just caused absolute chaos, because as soon as MIBR tried to flood back in towards the site for the retake, the angles were held and Liquid absolutely crushed them. Let's see if this round plays out the same way as the last one, though, as I believe it was Liquid who came out victorious.
Now then, Nesk has got the bandit batteries down on that jacuzzi wall, but he's not going to be actively bandit tricking by the looks of things. He's just dropped down to the main stairs and he put the other 2 down, thank you, medics, on the bathroom wall. Now, the problem that I've got with that is that there's Thatcher on the board, so the the jacuzzi wall is going to be very easily cleared off. To me, they may well have been better use putting them elsewhere. I suppose it wastes 1 EMP, but having the bandit there, I think sometimes can just be a bit more useful to try and keep hold of that wall a little bit more directly. They've got the castle barricade in place. If they could have got a deployable shield as well just inside of the drone hole, then it gives Nesk on the bandit the opportunity to just remain in there and try and juggle those bandit batteries and get a trick, clear those Hibana pellets off. Now, interestingly, we've got a thermite ban, so the Hibana pellets, the X-Kairos pellets, are much easier to bandit trick because of the fuse time on them. You can actually wait until they get activated and you still have time to go through the bandit battery animation and get it placed on the wall and burn them off. The danger obviously coming from Cyber on the Maverick if he comes in and does exactly what he's doing now. But if that's the case, you've got the opportunity to move away as Nesk. You've got plenty of time, you know that's happening. You could even get cheeky and try and challenge him directly. These Maverick holes work in both directions.
I'm very curious to know why they're focusing on doing it on this side, but they have done enough now to get this wall open. Maybe try and save the Hibana pellets here to focus instead on the bathroom wall and get that open. Normally you'll open the very bottom of it and you will crawl inside. Now they've just found out that's exactly where Ness is going to be, on the staircase. Normally where you would see a Jaeger playing, admittedly, but now Ness is going to drop away, having lost 2/3 of his HP. So he is away and safe for now. But you can see the surround starting to come in from the attacking side here. I don't actually think anyone is watching off towards the east wall. So if desired, you might see someone watching off towards the other side. Pala or someone like that, or the Castle, Sexy Cake especially, could rotate round and watch the window from inside of CCTV. I did see Hugsword off towards the southeast side as well, so I'm kind of curious to know what he's doing down there. Oh, Cyber, what an angle!
Disgusting kill onto Pala there. They all count, and that one was certainly purposeful. What a great angle he created for himself there with that Maverick hole in the wall into construction. So that will leave us now 5 versus 4, but time is going to start becoming a factor again here. I keep commenting on this. MIBR like to leave things until very late in the round. Challenge comes through onto Nesk, 5 versus 3, but Moringa will trade that one back out now. 4 versus 3, still in favour of MIBR, but we get a flurry of kills there. 3 versus 1, 2 versus 1 as PSK steps up and completes his double. He's going to be looking for a 4K on the round if he's to win this. M-King is getting the diffuser down now, so PSK will have it all to do. As it is, it's a slightly poorly timed nitro there. It's unfortunate, just takes him out of his ADS as Bullet pops up and is waiting with the ADS to clear him up.
The real key thing there was they didn't expect PSK to be inside of stock, because you saw one drop the hatch above stock, and the assumption there was that stock would be in their control. They hadn't droned it out properly, they hadn't found it at PSK, so he was safe. We then saw another one try and push in, I believe from the south window on construction. It could have been from Cash. PSK held the angle and found himself 2 kills there. And it goes to show how just one thing going wrong on an execute that is so tightly planned like that can punish you, That round is a brilliant example of it. And MIBR, we are about 2 or 3 rooms away in the hotel here, and every single time they've won, both those last 2 rounds, we've heard the cheers and shouts of, yeah, let's go. They absolutely love it.
And to be fair, that's not something that we've been able to hear through the week to give people an idea. You know, it's not something. It's not so just that, you know, they might could be thin walls. We could be hearing them every single game, but that's not been the case. So they really are louder than the other teams at this point.
The only thing we have heard is that the other casters on the B stream are normally next door, and you can sometimes hear them shouting. But the fact that we can still hear it through all these walls is pretty incredible. Either way, we have hit the half at 3-3. Liquid probably not going to be too pleased there with losing 3 rounds on the defense. Clubhouse generally considered a defender-leaning map. MIBR now get to switch over to the defense, and given this is their map pick, you would generally expect them to be the ones that come out victorious. Now, they haven't got any crazy strats coming through for us here on the downstairs. In fact, I would argue it's a much more turtle-based defense. Turtle meaning most of you stay on site, you either roam very close to site, but overall, your whole idea is that you are defending the site with as much utility and gadget play as you can. That's exactly what they're doing here. Is they've got the Goyo, very well renowned for wasting time with his Vulcan shields, as well as the Kaid, who can deal with those hatches, keep them electrified, make it tough for the attackers to get through. The issue you face here is it's a bit of a war because you have a Maverick on the other side who doesn't care if they are electrified. He can still open things up, and if not, you've always got Moringa on the Thatcher as well as the Hibana for PSK. So they can still make things work for them. The one thing they need to be worried about is Novice on this pulse. He can find himself inside a kitchen or catch those that are inside a kitchen and trying to open that hatch up, well, there's a lot of work to be done. Right now he's playing inside of church, or behind church wall as we call it. He's playing for what I call the death box at the bottom of those west stairs called main stairs, and as soon as someone walks through, Medics knows what I'm talking about. He's seen this with me 10,000 times. People walk through, 2 or 3 die. It's beautiful.
So 1 minute into the round, we can see there is no too much early progress from Liquid into the map here. They are doing their due diligence, getting the drones out, looking for the information, making sure that top floor is clear. I think we can see that we've got 1-man pallet upstairs on the book. Now, that book will usually come down, operate around kitchen, look to rip up as much of that floor as he can do. It is all destructible. No surprise to see him positioned at the minute at the top of main stairs and just droning that area for himself. Once he's confident that it's clear, he'll get himself down there and he'll start ripping up that corridor, as we can see with the skeleton key there, and that gives him lots of angles. The one he's opening up there is actually just to that middle, that sort of kill box area that Des was just talking about, and it just prevents any rotations from the defenders going from through this corridor and out into Moto or potentially up the stairs. That's the intention. He's going to go into kitchen, he's going to open that up as well, and he's just going to see if he can root this Pulse out potentially. As it is, he probably won't because of where Pulse is playing. He's keeping himself nice and tight into the wall there, so it's unlikely that the book is going to get above him.
You see thanks to the extended view of this UI as well. Hashtag thank you medics, that we have 2 C4s still in play. They're the ones I'm watching for now to see when the delivery of that payload comes in. And we find 1 or 2 going down as that one. Nesk is entering the death box zone now. Novice will be there waiting. And he'll just dare him to kind of hang around a little bit too often, because as soon as he tucks himself into the southeast corner at the bottom of those stairs, you cannot escape a C4. That being said, this is a LAN environment. It is a lot easier to shoot C4s out of the sky due to the low latency that we have. So we may yet see that be a thing. And I like this combo they've got here. It's Novice providing permanent intel. There comes 1 C4. So they anticipated that and backed away well. Do they know that a second may yet follow?
That is an interesting question.
Let's
We've got a great view here. Out comes, but they were too quick. Liquid managed to move forward. But what has happened throughout those 2 C4 attempts, we've got a double kill from M-King there, and we can see that that is still becoming a death box, as you describe it, Des. All 4 have died in that area. Paolo will manage to get 1 back, but with only 2 seconds on the clock, it will be impactless. Now, interestingly there, what happened was every time that C4 came out, it really encouraged extreme movement from Liquid. So the first time what we saw happen was Sexy kicked it back all the way onto the stairs, but then he rushed forward because he felt it was safe. But there was a man down at single door in Armory waiting. M-King picks him off. Second C4 comes through. So then Liquid have to just rush in. M-King again is waiting and picks Nesk off. Great setup there from MIBR. There was so much more to that than tossing C4s over a wall hoping for a kill.
Absolutely correct. And you probably saw what I did there towards the end of that round. I removed my right ear cup and just wanted to listen to the sounds reverberating through the hotel. And quite naturally, we just heard, yeah, go on, go on. MIBR are loving life right now. They're ready for this fixture because although they meet Liquid all the time, and I have zero doubt they scrim each other quite a lot, they're good friends, they know that this game has bigger stakes than any they have played against each other before, and I'll keep on reminding everyone to it to the death. Last time these teams played, MIBR won 7-4 on Clubhouse. It's currently looking like it's trending towards that sort of result, but MIBR had a very, very convincing defense. Now we're coming things out a little bit different on the upstairs. It's Mute Mozzie setup as we have seen previously, still retaining the electro claws of Hogsword though. I expect his focus will be on the east wall as well as the construction wall, although we have seen a couple of teams as of late doing exactly what he's doing right now. You basically electrify these two walls inside a garage and hold it down to a T. It becomes very difficult to assault into. It makes it very safe for whoever plays on catwalk to sit there and defend those electro claws, as you cannot be threatened from below with a hole that you very commonly see opened up on those garage doors. The reason why you will often open one of those holes is because you can then get an angle in towards the window at the north side of garage. It makes it very difficult for you to rotate out of it. So by protecting those walls, well, that becomes almost impossible to do.
Now, the Mute Mozzie combo is an interesting one. We've spoken about it a couple of times over the weekend. It might not be something that you've caught, but it serves two real purposes bringing them. First is information denial. That is the primary one. Between those pests and jammers, you can pretty much lock down an entire floor of a map and not allow any drones to be active in there. Generally, you're not going to catch too many. These guys are too good for that, but it does prevent them moving into those areas and creates this blackout. And the secondary effect of that is that it slows the attack down because they can't be confident what they're going into. They have to face check everything. And when we say face check, what we mean is they actually have to look round corners. They have to get into the radius, and that makes these players nervous because they don't have any sort of advantage in that gunfight then. They're moving into other people's lines of sight potentially, so they're always at a natural disadvantage. What you like to do as an attacker is get drones ahead of you, find where those defenders are playing so that you're going in there with clear information. There is a player sat in that corner next to that desk, and then you can go in pre-fire in that area and try to beat that reaction time. And that's what Mute and Mozzie as a combination really bring to the table. So it's no surprise to see us a minute and a half in and Liquid still looking to get themselves set up in the positions that they wish to operate from.
Because they're operating very, very blind. I was going to mention that Mozzie then, you heard him catch a couple of drones as well. Unfortunately, it's not an Aussie on this Mozzie, but a Mozzie is still Aussie, or Mozzie is still an Aussie, I guess.
Yes, he is. He is.
That's why we made the joke in the first place, and that's why it's going to keep on persisting all the way back to the UK. Now, Liquid have got themselves in a good spot here with 60 seconds remaining to be lining up against construction wall. It's about trying to make a play happen from here, and right now they're using frag grenades to even clear this door out in the first place. They actually just killed one of their own drones, not the intention of Pala. Look how many of them are stacking here though. Two outside of this south window in construction, as well as two inside. They are stacking everything onto this side of it. They're going to just go for a rush here, I think, in towards the south side. They're not even going to bother with the north one, and here they go, piling in. Four of them charging towards site. It's like a pristine SWAT operation. PSK Pala getting themselves a couple hooks off from below with a C4, and they have penned the defenders into this northeast corner. They are pushing themselves down the stairs, and Cyber is going to find himself too. It's now a bit of a war as Bullet finds another one. It's a 3 versus 1, and for Liquid, it looks so coordinated to start things off, but it has all fell apart towards the end right now. Cyber is going for a defuse, and Sexy Cake going to do what he can. Finds the diffuser. Still 25 seconds on the clock, mind you. A lot of work still to do, and there are holes here. He can potentially get himself shot out. You're looking the wrong way, man. What are you doing? Finds a shotgun to the face. He'll go down, and that will be an easy defuse coming through for MIBR. A great effort by Liquid, but figured out by MIBR, who just had those much more consistent shots that netted them that round.
This is why I love casting LATAM, because you just never know what you're going to see. It is not often that you will see 4 men piling in through a single window like that and having any sort of success with it. But success they had, and they obviously recognised that there was just nobody in a position to immediately challenge that location, so they were actually safe to make that push in, and then they made it work as best they could. I've got to ask questions about Pala. He seemed a little bit lost in cash there. I'm sure he knows far better than I do, but he was flipping between utilities. He had the skeleton key on. He was challenging 2 on stairs, but the skeleton key is generally terrible at challenging enemies. You really do want to be flipping back onto the rifle at that point. He tried to throw a nade in there. He got back on the skeleton key. I think he just... there was too much going on at once for him to flip back to his rifle, and it was really unfortunate for him. That could have actually changed the round there. If he'd managed to drop his underbarrel and go back to the rifle, that could have been 2 quick kills, and at that point, Liquid are in serious ascendancy.
I did really love seeing 4 of them piling barreling through a window and no one dying on the entry, though. It just showed a lot of coordination and setup coming through from them that I was really hoping to see. It looked good, but gunfights ultimately win this game. It is an FPS at heart. Now, a tactical timeout being deployed by Liquid here. You get 1 per map per team, so this is a really great time to use it. Things aren't going well. You're losing quite a few rounds here, Liquid. You won the first 3, and since then, well, it's been, 3 of the first 4, and since then you haven't won a single one. So MIBR are really charging their way through here with 4 rounds back-to-back across attack and defense. This map is definitely going in their favor, and we are actually careering towards potentially a 7-4 scoreline, which would map exactly the last time that these two teams played. Now, this is what I was most excited to see. This is the site that I've analyzed the living death when MIBR defend it, and last time they really messed it up. I want to see if they've learned and improved on that and get it right this time.
So, we've got the castle, we've got the Maestro, and we've got the Legion. So, Legion, Maestro, Castle, definitely looking at slowing teams down. Maestro, maybe a little bit less so, but the way that Maestro slows people down is through having those cams there. Very difficult to destroy and feed in a lot of information in. Just sort of shuts lanes down because attackers don't want to push into them because they know that the Maestro cam is feeding that information, and likely they're going to have somebody pop out like a jack in the box and take them out through the lane that they're trying to push. As it is, Smoke, Castle, Legion, all there to try and slow things down. Control lanes and Smoke to a degree, obviously, to offer that plant denial as well.
He's hanging around waiting for drones more than anything else, but I think he's also trying to cause some chaos off towards the west side of the map here. Let's see what he can do, if he can find anyone as they try and make their way in towards the building, but for now that seems to be a resounding no, as most of the members of the other side are in fact in towards the site, with the majority of Liquid pushing in from the east, as you can see now.
30 seconds gone off the clock so far. Still 5 versus 5 and a steady approach from Liquid. At this point, they've lost quite a few rounds on the bounce and they don't want to be throwing themselves into dangerous positions too quickly. We can see a lot of work going into that wall from Sexy Kick. He's going to try and get that all cleared off so that the jacuzzi wall is accessible and that they can get through there. Obviously, he's going to need the support of Pala, who's waiting above him on the rooftop. Now, interestingly, we've got Novice all the way down. You can get a horrendous angle up onto that balcony from there by knocking that bullet hole in. I'm not sure if any of the Liquid players are aware that that has happened or not. Novice seems to have backed away at this point. Maybe he had a quick look, felt that he couldn't see anything, and he's just dropped away. You don't want to throw his life away on that. As we can see, the jacuzzi wall has been opened, but basically any of the attackers who push themselves over to that balustrade, that railing that you can see on the left-hand side, you can get a line of sight all the way up there from Dirt Tunnel. It's one to have a little try in ranked next time you're playing. It's an absolutely horrible angle. But if he'd caught one out there, it'd been fantastic, but he didn't really stick around long enough to have a look.
Now, last time they did this, Sexy Kick actually charged in towards Jim and Bedrock, and planted behind the single reinforced wall that you can see inside there. Similarly, last time they had the Habana get this open, have one creep inside, exactly the same way as they're doing now. This time around, they've got the Legion to try and make something happen. They messed up on one of those, mind you, though they still managed to get the 3 bottom X-Kairos off, as well as a second layer. Now, the crucial thing is, I don't know if they can crawl through that because only one layer was destroyed. It might yet be enough, and they need to be able to grenade out the armored wall that you can now see. Interestingly, they are off towards the south side as well, so off towards the east, Cyber and Sexy Cake having a bit of an unknown stare down, but you saw that grenade, the drone trickle on for a second there for PSK. He knows that someone is playing towards those stairs, so Sexy Kick knows that he probably shouldn't move right now. Again, his sole job is making sure that no one pushes in towards CCTV and uses that western window to spray anyone down who's on the south balcony. Like they are here, they are perfectly protected because the Maverick has got them covered.
Novice playing underneath the gym there. He can serve 2 purposes. He can provide information and let his team know if anybody pushes in through that single door, but second and most important, he can challenge them as they do as well. As you can see, he's lined up nicely so that he sees their head first, and it does give him a slight advantage as they push in, and he uses that advantage to the max. 4 kills coming in at once. Novice with the 5th. How about that for a round? Flawless from MIBR, and they put themselves one step closer to taking Clubhouse here, and map number 1 against what will prove a difficult Liquid team. This could be another upset on the cards.
I can die happy now. I can get on my plane back to Birmingham. I've seen what I need to see this land, and that is the improvement coming out of MIBR and defending that site. Last time round was a total mess, and I believe it was even a flawless round to Liquid. But the big key change they made this time round was seeing Novice on that Legion. First wasting time off towards the west as we saw, then dropping down below and holding that angle. And the thing is, Liquid weren't even aware. They still had drones around, but they didn't have them downstairs. They had no idea he was watching that angle, and well, well, we all saw the slaughter that just ensued. Very well set up by MIBR and much improved. We may see them improve their score after last time by 1 round, thanks to the way that last one played out. 6-3 now at match point for MIBR. This is their map pick, let's not forget. So you would expect them to be winning on this one. But Liquid, gotta say, they are being matched by MIBR, and that is the most exciting thing for this best of 3.
What a job MIBR have done here. It really has been a masterclass of defence on Clubhouse, really. You know, like you say, they've had a couple of blitz here and there, but generally speaking, they've been absolutely solid and a pleasure to watch. We can see them now down on Church and Arsenal. We know that they tend to defend this in a more sort of standard way. They don't go for the top floor SSG hold, as we've been calling it. Tend to stay downstairs. They'll have the pulse there. He'll be playing inside of Church, as we saw previously, and he's going to try to do largely the same thing. He's going to wait for that push to come down main stairs. Now, what I'd like to see Liquid do a little bit differently here is I'd like to see them attack from multiple angles. I've spoken about this before. When attacking this site, if you're not having to deal with that top floor defence, generally what you want to do is, yes, there should be a focus on getting Church wall open. It can be important and it can really open up the site, but aside from that, you should consider potentially Dirt Tunnel. That one's not essential, but it does sometimes help. A Goyo shield in there won't make things any easier to push down there, so you could be forgiven for leaving that, but certainly getting control over Blue Corridor can be pivotal to attacking this site in this way, because there will be a rotation behind the generator unit that goes into the site, and that angle can be an absolute killer, especially if you get the Church wall open as well. It basically prevents any defenders from operating nearly anywhere in that site, and it really does strengthen your opportunity to get a plant down. So I'd like to see some pressure put onto Cyber here. It's no surprise to see MIBR putting one of their top fraggers in that location, because that is a power point of this defence.
It absolutely can be, and we already saw the death box that kind of got set up last time. It was M-King who really had the run of the show, finding a triple kill, so look out for him doing the same again. Now, that was a pretty early C4 being burnt by Hugsword there. Probably pressed the button a little bit too fast. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. It's a very well-known saying from a certain film that some of you may well know. Well, he just blew a whole floor up there, yet didn't manage to find any individual. They have one C4 remaining now on the side of Novice, but he's also going to be playing, of course, with that cardiac sensor, so they know what's going on. There's a very big focus coming through here for Team Liquid to get this hatch open. Let's see if they can make it work. Then they get a second one up there now as well. They might have got that just in time, actually. That's almost perfect, I think. Will it get it? Yes, it will. Is that everything done? That's the X-Kairos gone. Liquid committed everything to getting that open and failed. This is now a very rough situation. They're going to have to rush through dirt, drop oil, go through blue, or play in towards Novice's hand here with a push in towards main stairs.
I cannot overstate how difficult Cade tricking can be. Bandit tricking is usually a couple of seconds to get that battery down. I can't remember the exact timing of it, but a Cade charge takes a lot longer to activate. Thermite, for example, if you've already seen the Thermite start to go, then it is too late for a Cade charge. It has to be down a couple of seconds before, so it's all about prediction, and that was absolutely fantastic for him there. Now, are they aware? Is MIBR aware that they've got two coming down the dirt tunnel? They certainly will be after those flashbangs come out. A grenade will follow, and he drops away. Nesk gets a kill and a second. That's 2 headshots for Nesk, and he really is going on a tear here. That's 3 for him, and he opens MIBR up. As I said, blue corridor can be the key, dirt tunnel as well, but that will be shut down massively, and we quickly find ourselves in a 1 versus 1 as Moringa gets the final kill onto Hugsword. But MIBR will win the day. They will win the match on Clubhouse, and we're going to the second map with the favour sitting strongly with MIBR.
What's that second map? I know exactly why you didn't say the map names, because you couldn't remember. Don't worry, neither can I, so it's fine.
So difficult when you get caught up in the action.
It is, and that was a really interesting Clubhouse match as well. Like I say, that was what? 6 rounds back-to-back for MIBR, spanning across both attack and defense, almost flawless, except for, of course, the first few rounds, which looked a little bit messy at points. But no one cares. It came out beautifully well. That last round there was extremely close. It came down to probably an extra second or so, and we would have seen a very crucial 1v1 to close things out. And again, we heard MIBR cheering every single round, none more so than at the very end of that one. Here's a few replays to feast your eyes on in case you missed the majority of that map.
I need to work with more confidence, Des. I did know the next map. I just checked with production and I was right.
Oh, that's the sound of a weakling, mate.
It was Coastline. Coastline we're going going to be heading to next. And that's going to be an interesting one, because what we've seen there is Team Liquid have actually been very good on the fragging. We saw Nesk come in and absolutely decimate Blue there. Nesk is really firing at the minute, and a map like Coastline is going to be more based on the gunfights rather than the strategies. MIBR's defences were very good there because they were difficult to break down. They did what they needed to do. They had crossfires in place. We saw a perfect example of it as the Nitros kept sailing over that church wall and pushing Liquid players into the line of fire of M-King. It was just a perfect crossfire that was set up, and that's how they've played that map. But coming onto Coastline, they might struggle to do that a little bit more on the defence. They're going to be challenged in a more sort of free-form way, if you will, and it's going to come down to gunfights, potentially on roamers as well, and that could well be a benefit to Liquid. So no surprise that they've chosen that as their second map. It wouldn't surprise me to see this go to 3, but the way MIBR are playing, I tell you what, they've got a good shout here.
I won't lie, I was quite concerned coming into the Six Invitational 2020 that given how we saw FaZe play against Fnatic yesterday, it was very chaotic. It was essentially 2.5 minutes every single round of, working through things normally, and then it just kind of was a down tools and let's have a frag fest. It was really messy, and I thought we might see the same here because MIBR are placed lower than FaZe when it comes to their Pro League. But with the way things played out in this game, I actually think that was really enjoyable to watch. There was a lot of strategy involved. There was a lot of fragging, as we come to expect from LATAM. There was even a bit of surprises when, someone didn't check the corners inside kitchen and got themselves knifed in the back.
I mean, you don't see that too often. To be fair, you don't.
But
that is the absolute freest kill he's going to have in his life.
Imagine if I just paused and said to you, let me tell you a story. Someone walked into kitchen blind and there was someone, a Valkyrie, sat literally to the left-hand side of the door, not even in cover, and they got stabbed in the back. Which region would you think that was from?
LATAM.
Exactly, right? And that's exactly where it just came from, so it fits. The narrative goes, okay?
It certainly does. You missed one sentence there, as if that happened at the Six Invitational.
Yeah,
of all
okay,
places.
Also fair.
Of all places.
So I'm excited to see how Coastline goes. You've already kind of summarised what it's going to look like as well, but I think for both teams, we've seen that they've got the strategy. We've seen they've got the gun skill. The difference between Clubhouse and Coastline is that generally for Clubhouse, again, it's a very checklist-based map. There are a lot of things you have to do before you can go for those gunfights, really. Coastline is a bit different. You can have gunfights from the off. In fact, earlier on in the game that we saw between TSM and Na'Vi, there were a lot of fights going on at doorways, at windows, all the rest of it. It was a very, very scrappy affair between the two sides, both literally slugging each other all game long. I think we are going to see something very similar out of these two teams here. A lot of Vigil play, a lot of roams coming in from the Jaeger players, for example, and probably even more Mute and Mozzie, because both sides have shown quite a tendency to lean towards playing them.
Interestingly, FaZe actually played against Liquid on the last week of their Pro League, and that was on Coastline. Liquid coming out with a 7-5 win against FaZe, but not necessarily convincing. If you're going all the way to 12 rounds, we saw FaZe already leave the tournament yesterday, so you've got to ask questions there. Obviously they've got some confidence going into Coastline, otherwise they wouldn't have chosen it, but there's maybe some room there for MIBR. That's certainly not Liquid coming in and absolutely rolling over another LATAM team there, so MIBR might just be reasonably confident here coming into Coastline.
I think people will never fully appreciate the glory that is your little book, On the plane over here, for example, it was about an 8-hour flight or so. Ace was sat there. What was I doing? I was sat watching Na'Vi versus BDS on Coastline. What were you doing? You were sat there with your book, your little ruler. It was like you were back in high school, drawing lines through, entering stats, copying things over. I've got to say, it's been useful. You've used it quite a lot, actually, over the last few days. Fair play to you, Ace.
An awful lot.
The man is a spreadsheet wizard. He loves his stats, he loves his books, and, well, he's come prepared for this. Now, the question is, how prepared are Liquid for this map? Again, this was their map pick. You would expect Coastline generally to go in their favour. Which side do you think they start on? Because MIBR get the choice of sides here. They could get to choose the side they start on overtime. I've got to say, MIBR are still in their huddle. They really like this close contact.
Yeah, they really want to know what they're doing. There's laughter. They know. They just look like they're ready, to be honest. They look like they're here to play. For me, I think maybe start on the attack. I think we've seen Coastline be favourable for the attackers over the last couple of days. I think maybe go in there, try and get yourself a lead, and then you're going in and just trying to lock it down on defence.
Could definitely come out that way, and for MIBR, they're the ones, again, who have the lead here. They are 1-0 up. They can afford for Coastline to not quite go as planned. We step into Kafe as the final map. I think we said earlier on that would lean quite heavily into Liquid's favour as they have played it already. I believe it was yesterday they played it and came out on top 7-5 against NIP. NIP dismantled of both of these teams. Otherwise, that was the only time we have seen another team cause a bit of an upset or any kind of worry for NIP. So I think if this goes to 3 maps, Liquid will win the series.
Yeah.
MIBR need to win it here.
I'd agree with that. I think it does go into Liquid's favour. MIBR, as you say, need to come out strong on Coastline here. The first half is going to be very, very important for them. They want to get themselves a good lead, and they want to be pushing on to... It looks like they're going to be on the attack, I think. So, yes, they are going to be on the attack, as I suggested. I think that's the right decision, and I think they need to get themselves a good lead, maybe 4-2 here, coming into that defence, so that they can really push forward. They're going to want to shut this down here and now. The last thing MIBR want, I think, will be a third map.
It would make things a bit nervy for them, no doubt. However, Liquid, again, their map pick. They should be the ones feeling relatively confident coming into this, whether on attack or on defense. Let's see how the operator bans go. Capital is pretty much always a ban at some stage or another. Lion going to follow through here. That doesn't surprise me too much. A good number of teams have been running Lion. Some have joined that up with the Kafe. We even saw teams earlier on throwing a Jackal in the mix as well, just to make it extra torturous for the defenders.
So, yeah, Lion has really been coming back into his own recently. No surprise, anybody that makes you stand still in Siege is a significant threat. Gridlock also coming off the board now. That is an unusual ban. We don't tend to see too many. If you're wanting to stop rotations, flanks and jump outs, then it does tend to be Nomad that is the option for the ban there rather than Gridlock. Gridlock tends to get brought when Nomad is not available and has been banned. So it's a little bit unusual to see that the other way around. Mirror coming in there, I would suggest probably Echo or Maestro for the last ban. My money would go on Echo.
Gridlock is often brought when you want to prevent things from the inside or on maps where it's quite easy, yeah, there you go, or where it's quite easy to spot out where the air jabs are. And I think with the way you can approach most of the stairs on this map outside of potentially cool vibes, it can be quite easy to spot where the air jabs go down. Therefore, it's only really useful when you're looking at jump outs. Now, maybe for MIBR and banning away the Gridlock here, they're just saying, you know what, we care more about the inside than about the potential for jump outs. We know that with the one, we're pretty happy. We'd rather just not have ourselves slowed down when it comes to being on the defensive side of things. They're going to start with the Ying, but I expect that will go back over to the hover that we saw, which will likely turn out to be the Nomad.
So round one, yes, you are absolutely right there. Ying would be an unusual pick, to be fair.
We did see it get picked yesterday.
We did, and there is use for Ying. I was just going to follow up and say Ying certainly has her place in certain situations. You know, those. I think the problem with Ying sometimes is the unpredictability of the flashes. You know, sometimes if you duck yourself into a corner, you can avoid that full white, so you sort of push in there and you're not 100% sure as to exactly what you're going into. So, but Ying does have some great uses dependent on the site. Can be very useful, particularly for assisting getting plants down. Also in the post plant sometimes, you know, you pop one of those in there and then your opponent's a flash for 5 seconds. It's very difficult for them to start really thinking about that retake.
I remember when I first really got into Siege, like watching it at a competitive level, there were a couple of teams that were using it to assault onto the basement of Clubhouse, which is what we saw earlier on. Often you took down a couple of those candelas down the kitchen hatch, everyone would drop, and it was a bit chaotic at times. It was very LATAM in style, but it was European teams that were doing it. Either way, she's not on the field right now. What we are seeing is a Nomad plus 2 Claymores, as you can see, 1 for the Zofia and 1 for the IQ. That does show that they are probably somewhat concerned about runouts coming out of Liquid, so expect a bit of safety in the early round. If anyone's going to die, I would expect it's probably going to be someone from Liquid catching out a member of MIBR, being a little too brave too early into the round.
We saw an absolute slugfest on Coastline in the first match of the day, Des. If you think back, Na'Vi versus TSM, there were all sorts of jump outs, run outs, peaks. There was everything going on that you can think of, and it was an absolutely crazy match that went the distance, but ultimately TSM came out on top, having a great game. We can see in that match there was a big focus on the roam game. It can be difficult on Coastline because you're limited to 2 staircases up and down, and they can be quite easy to sort of shut those down, especially with a Nomad on the cards. So usually what you would use a Nomad for is either, like that, stopping the run-outs potentially, or you'd save a couple of those air jabs once you're inside, look to air jab off the staircases and prevent people from moving up and down. But with the top floor site, that's a little bit less relevant because you're not looking for the same top floor control. Where it's a bottom floor site, sometimes you want to clear everybody out, and then you want to know that nobody is coming back up.
Got to consider as well with the Gridlock ban that you don't have access to the smokes that you would normally see. She does have a lot more versatility than a Nomad strictly would, and maybe that's part of the reason for the ban coming in as well. 9 seconds into the round though, no one yet has died, as you can see. It's been a pretty peaceful affair between the two sides. We did expect it to start slow. However, that time round we were expecting to see someone on the window. Wasn't quite the case, and Hugzord was ready for Pala there up on the roof and found his legs before Pala could find Hugzord's head.
So 5 versus 4, 1 minute left on the clock and change, and Liquid here are, I think, reasonably happy so far. They need to get themselves a kill, really. That's not going to help them at all. I think up until that point, they'd wasted a reasonable amount of time and they were pushing MIBR towards maybe sort of a late push onto site with 30 seconds to go. But Cyber getting that really does not help the situation, and that helps it even less as M-King comes in with a double onto Nesk and Moringa there. Round finished off. M-King onto Sexy Cake, and I will tell you what, flawless round in number 1 for MIBR. This one could start to slip out of Liquid's hands very quickly here, and I think we could have a surprise, what would be a surprise result for a lot of people.
We could, and we spoke a lot over the course of this weekend about mentality in Siege, and in fact spoke to a couple of players in the post-game interviews as well about it, which you can see on the ESL Rainbow Six Twitter, and they were saying the biggest strength you can have in Siege is being able to reset after every single round. It's a new game, it starts afresh, there isn't really any snowball factor in Siege. It's not like in other games where you have cash or kills which make you a more powerful character or whatever. Everything restarts each and every round. The only thing that can worry you is when it comes down to the scoreline at the top of the screen. If you start paying too much attention to that, you might find yourself tilted and underperforming. And for Liquid now, that's how many rounds of the trot? 7 rounds they've now lost?
Yep.
3 and 1, 6 on the last map. Yep, that's the 7th one. Liquid need to get a win under the books here, I think, to really bring this back in their favour. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to round 3 and Liquid are down 3-0, if we see a timeout come through, just because they desperately will need that mental reset. Otherwise, this may as well be done now as a 2-0.
So we can see those mute jabbers coming out there just to deny access to the drones coming into sight there. We've got Goyo shields that are going to be placed as well. So this is a little bit of what I was talking about previously. So we're on a bottom floor site, but on Coastline quite often it's important to hold the top of the site as well. We've also got Sledge on the side of Novice there for MIBR. So what Liquid are trying to do here is prevent access into VIP particularly. That's a lot of soft floor that is positioned right above the site of Kitchen. You can get some angles into sort of the service area from Penthouse, but more important is VIP. The floor throughout Hall of Fame is solid, so you can't actually get any angles from there. So what MIBR want to do is they want to get into that top floor. We want to clear out all them defenders, force them back downstairs, or even better, kill them, and then they want to take over that control, get vertical angles down onto site, start people moving around, get kills if they can, or push them into their teammates' lines of sight. So that's why Liquid have expended so much utility on that top floor. We don't always see quite so much utility. Quite often we'll just have a couple of bodies up there, a couple of roamers looking to slow things down. But as it is, we've got reinforcements, we've got Goyo shields, and that is a real statement of intent from Liquid that they are going to hold on to this top floor for as long as possible, because ultimately it's all utility that isn't available directly in sight.
There are a few phases that you often see when attacking this site. The first one is always that war for the top floor and taking control. If the attacking side gets access to it, they will assume full vertical control, and often defenders will then disperse from playing on the site and instead situate themselves away from sight. As soon as the attackers do try and go for a plant, though, you will often see a retake come through. A retake being where you play away from the site, you let the attackers take control of it, and then you try and interrupt them before anything else can come of it. Now, they know the Echo's in there, going straight in there. They did get the Echo charge off at first with the Yokai, but no kill was there immediately to follow. Unfortunate, but not quite to be. Sexy Cake over will find 1. Cyber trains back with 2. And MIBR still, even though Liquid found themselves their opening kill of the round, still find themselves at a man disadvantage. Bugsword now going for a plant just inside of Kitchen window. Whilst that's going to go down, no one seems to know it's there. A C4 attempt was made, but not to be found. They're straight back out the windows, because why would you want to stay inside? More kills rain through, and M-King is having a game today. I've got to give it to the guy. He is flying, and with that diffuser down, well, there's not much more to be done. About 30 seconds remain, and Nesk is in a 1 versus 3. He is the player you would fancy in this kind of situation, if anyone, to make this happen. But even drones are leering at him here as well. The jump over comes through, but Cyber gets down. It's a double kill for Nesk. What else can he achieve? He's on drones. He's looking the wrong way. M-King finds another kill in that round. My word, MIBR even, I was going to say M-King again, but it may as well be M-King, is storming his way through. I think M-King stands for MIBR's king.
It's certainly looking that way at the moment. He is making a real shout for it. He's having the game of his life at the minute. Again, excellent attack from MIBR there, just doing the unexpected. I really like Hugsword as a planter for that. You'll see it quite often. He's willing to take risks. It's not always the right thing to do as the planter. You've got to know when to stay and when to go. And quite often he goes a little bit before many others would do. He's happy to get into a slightly risky situation and get that diffuser down. And that's exactly what he's done there. We saw a Nitro toss come out. I think it was attempting to deny that plant, but it just wasn't close enough to him. But it didn't doesn't shake him. He just keeps his finger down on that plant button and gets it done for his team. And I like that about him. Like, sometimes, yeah, you're going to leave the diffuser in a difficult location if you lose your life, but sometimes those risks really do pay dividends, and more often than not for Hugsword, they do seem to be successful. 2-0 MIBR.
It's always nice to make statements, and when they're backed by stats, it is even more impressive. M-King across every single round in this fixture so far on Clubhouse and on Coastline has a 100% cost. That is incredible. Cost, in case you haven't heard of it before, stands for kills, objectives, survive, or trade. The last one probably is the more questionable.
The others are obvious.
Yeah, the others are, but the trade is more, basically, if you die, are you traded immediately afterwards, that will count towards your cost. If you get any of those 4 things in a round, you will have a tick put next to your name, and of course that then gives you a percentage across all the rounds that you have played. Generally, it's a measure of a player's impact inside a game. It's not a flawless measuring system, but it's pretty good, and to be at 100% is incredible. By comparison, on the other side, Sexy Cake is on 36%. That is a very, very low number. Generally, 40% is considered pretty terrible. 30% does show at 2-11 in kills that his impact has not been felt so far in this game.
Certainly struggling to get into the game, so he's an operator to keep an eye on for the rest of this. Let's see how he progresses playing operators like Echo. Whilst it might not help him get into the game in terms of frags, etc., because he's going to spend a lot of time on those yokai drones, maybe it's a way of just slowing things down for him. He's not necessarily having to get into those gunfights if those shots aren't landing for him today. It just goes to show there's certainly more than one way to have an impact in Siege, and you know, if the gun's not doing it for you, then maybe bring a gadget, bring the utility that can do it instead, and that could be absolutely essential in a late round to deny a plant, but also that information that's being fed back. But he needs to be careful. That's the second time we've seen him being particularly aggressive with those yokai drones, and he's just lost it there, and they can be very valuable utility. And we can see here Bullet just challenging on to Cool Vibe Stairs there. He will get one for himself, and he may well be able to push down and get a second onto Nesk. It's going to be a big ask though, because the Ash is less than one shot and Nesk is holding a tight angle. I don't think Bullet really needs to be pushing this at this point in time. He should be rotating away, saving his life, and maybe looking to attack from a different angle. All he is doing though is just preventing Nesk moving up those stairs. So long as he holds there, that's not the end of the world.
So he's kind of the doorman in this case, while you've got a sledge up top floor going to work on that soft flooring. And Bullet basically there was like a gladiator. He said, send a yokai drone. You want to send one man? Forget about that. Send 2 and I'll kill them both. Didn't quite kill the second, but did enough, whilst also disorientated by the yokai drone, to find himself a kill. You can see why he's regarded as one of the greatest fraggers in the region, but a smoke grenade will come through and that will bring him down. Immediately though, Novice is going to charge through and find that kill on towards Nesk. Traded by Moringa onto Hugsword. That puts us in the 3 versus 3. They still don't have top floor control, mind you, and Sexy Cake, speaking about him earlier on, has now managed to find himself a kill to get himself more involved in this game. It's a 3 versus 2 in favor of Liquid, and they should still have a yokai drone somewhere for if a plant were to come through.
20 seconds left to go. MIBR need to do something, and that will be the start of it. Cyber hitting that headshot onto Sexy Cake. That is especially important here because the Echo is off the board, so those yokai drones won't be able to prevent a plant if an attempt is made. Cyber moves in and gets a kill onto Moringa. Now we are short of time. 3 seconds on the clock. Cyber will have that diffuser going down and will be successful in the plant. But M-King, who else, steps in and gets the kill before Cyber can complete that plant, and that is another round going in favor of MIBR. And you've got to say, Des, they won that one from a difficult position.
Oh, M-King. Oh, M-King. You saw Nesk even turn to him like, you're number 1, baby. You the one. You doing this work right now. That was all him at the end there, making sure that angle was covered, because if he lost that gunfight, that was probably a pretty easy run forward for the final surviving member of Liquid to get towards where we saw the plant going down from Cyber and to get the interrupt off. 7-0 so far in this game. Incredible from M-King.
There was quite a small part of that round that was particularly important, that would have been easily missed, and that was when Bullet was taken out by the smoke grenade there. Nesk tried to rush up the stairs. He wanted to get upstairs and challenge that sledge. If he wins that fight, it puts Liquid at a serious man advantage and also takes some important utility off the board. The speed of thought from Novice was absolutely unbelievable at that point, and we got a great view of it. If you watch this game back at a later point, focus on that element, because what happened was Novice just immediately ran to that breach. He knew that once Bullet was taken out, somebody was going to try pushing up Cool Vibe Stairs, and Novice stepped straight out and got himself a kill immediately and was able to then go back about the business that he was undertaking as the Sledge. And it was just that prediction, that knowledge, that game sense that somebody is following up the stairs after that kill, and it just stopped that sort of that flood coming in from Liquid.
Not to take over your points at all, but Bullet was down momentarily from the smoke. He didn't die immediately, but I think the call was right, okay, there's a smoke canister that's come out. I'm down. They know that Cool Vibes is not protected. What's the sensible answer if I was in their position? Oh, it's to push. But you are right, though. Novice did rotate. He stopped his duties and having fun with a sledgehammer and instead focused on those stairs. Very well set up. Now, Medics did highlight something to us in there. Don't worry, buddy. I did notice what you did for us, and I love you for it. He showed that down here, you can see Nest with 2 ADSs stacked on that wall, as well as a deployable shield. I believe they've also got the camera above them as well. The default, of course, still intact. And he's going to hold now, please. Please. We saw this from BDS.
We've seen this before.
On Kafe, they were like, yeah, we're totally safe. There are 2 shields. The problem is those shields have got explosives strapped to the back. All it's going to take is a single grenade to roll to the front, or shoot the ground in front of them, or potentially go below and shoot them out from below, and you'll find themselves in hot bother. Let's see if they can make it happen, because that looks like that's exactly what might happen here. It is hard to do because of the fact that he's sat on a reinforced hatch, but if you get the soft floor like he's going for there, he didn't quite land it, but now it's like playing around landmines. And he's out of there. He's like, yeah, that one instance was enough for me, guys. I don't think I want to play this game again. Oh, my, he's going to actually see his feet here if he's not careful. He's going to go for it. There, grenade comes up. It's not going to land and connect. So that's 2 frag grenades down, and those shields are still intact.
It was certainly worth the attempt, though. Not too much risk there involved for the Sledge, but the reward could have been high. MIBR, I'm fairly confident are going to at least put up a good attack here, and that is the sort of feeling you start getting into. 3 rounds consecutively won, and the Liquid start having to ask themselves, what can we do here? There seems to be very little impact they can have to get themselves ahead of things, and they still struggle. Look at that Cyber moving in, getting a pre-fire kill still through whilst stunned. It seems that there is nothing that Liquid can do right here, as M-King steps in with another, and a second for himself onto Pala, trading out that earlier kill onto Hugsword, and that leaves us now 4 versus 2. Diffuser going down, M-King with a third. Bullet finishes things off with the kill onto Nesk. 4-0 in favour of MIBR, and this one could be over very, very soon.
3 kills for M-King. The dude is a machine today. I know I keep on saying it, but let's just appreciate again, this guy is sat at 100% cost across 14 rounds. His impact is unbelievable. In fact, look at it. Bullet, one of the top fraggers from LATAM, has to do nothing. He's 2-2. M-King is flying at 10. He has more kills than the entirety
and
of the
0, more importantly.
And 0 has yet to die. He is having a game. I'll keep saying it all day because it is just that impressive. Liquid still trying to really got to dig deep here. They've got to scrape the bottom of the barrel and muster every bit of strength and resilience that they've built up over all these years playing together. I believe it was Season 7 when they last had a big key victory. They have been waiting so long for this. They won at OGA. Prior to that, they came second, I believe it was, at Rally. Prior to that, it was third at the Allied Minor. They have come so close so many times. Always the stage, but never the spotlight. This was their opportunity. And MIBR, cruelly, their pals from LATAM are snatching it away from them with some incredible siege.
I just want to say, on the side of MIBR, whatever you do, do not touch M-King right now. Don't fist bump him, don't go near him, don't interfere with him in the slightest, because whatever is happening, it is special at the minute. 10-0 over 4 rounds against a team like Liquid, absolutely decimating them. And the last thing that you want to do is even affect the air around him that could have any sort of impact on that performance.
Oh, it's magic. It is fun to watch magic happen. I won't even sit here and pretend that I thought, look, we're going to lose all along, because actually I was speaking to Medics, our observer, before, and he said, what do you think the outcome's going to be? And I said, realistically, given the results of these guys last time they've played and the chain that happens with NIP, this should be a 2-0 to Liquid. They should be very comfortable in this. There's no reason why MIBR should be able to beat them. But like you say, there is something special happening right now, especially to M-King, and you don't want to disrupt that. MIBR are absolutely on fire and are potentially about to 2-0 Team Liquid in 3 rounds' time. That is a story and a half. I was really rooting for them at OGA. They did fall out to Team Liquid, who eventually went on to beat SSG, so it's not too bad losing to the eventual winners. hopefully we can see them perform better here at the Six Invitational once we move into the playoffs on Tuesday and Wednesday. And just a reminder, do stay tuned once this game is concluded, as we will show you who will be playing who in the playoffs. And we all know how crucial those matchups are. 6 of those teams will progress through to the actual stage on Friday, Saturday and Sunday next week. We move over to Plasbel. Is it Plasbel? Yes. I'm so glad I said it right the first time. So often do we try and say words and get them completely wrong, but to Plasbel is where we will go. And hopefully MIBR will be going there as well, assuming they can prevail through the playoffs. However, we are now 30 seconds into this round. We have talked enough about the overarching narrative of the whole tournament. Let's talk a little bit more about this round, Ace. We are inside of Kitchen and Service. And we're seeing Sexy Cake once more on towards the Echo. I'm liking that we're seeing Nesk on the Vigil as well. We saw this employed a lot earlier on by TSM and by Na'Vi on this map because it can cause such absolute chaos. You have to trust your eyes and not what drones are showing you.
That could be an interesting position for an air jab because that's not necessarily where you would stereotypically expect one. So it could well be that the Vigil of Nesk tries to push inside there. As it is, he's upstairs at the moment. He's just moved himself up Cool Vibe stairs. He was just at the double door of Sunrise a moment ago. If he'd have pushed in through there, he would have found himself flat on his back and being challenged by Hugzord, no doubt. So Hugzord has complete control over Sunrise. That can be quite a popular area for Kitchen. You can then work your way looking through that single door, and if anybody sort of rotates over to that bottom side of Kitchen, you can generally pick up the kills on them. What MIBR need to do here is they need to clear out these 3 upstairs, Pallet, Nesk and PSK, and that is not going to be an easy task. I'm sure they've got plenty of utility to support them, but the problem is if they don't, one of them is a Mozzie and has the opportunity to pull out that shotgun, open up the floor and actually use vertical angles against the attackers if they just push straight into sight.
This is an interaction I don't know. Can Mozzie... No, he can't. Never mind. It confused the living hell out of me there because I saw the Echo disappear at the exact time that we heard the sound go off, and I was like, but he's on the same team. Surely that wouldn't make sense. It absolutely will not. What does make sense is MIBR are still steamrolling their way through. That's the Echo dead early again. This is the second or third time now that I've seen Sexy Cake on the Echo dying relatively early into the trades for his team. They don't have hold of that Echo later in towards the round. Now Nesk from Cool Vibes is going to find a kill on towards Cyber, a pretty crucial kill. But our 10-0 hero is still alive and firing right now. The plant is going down for Hugzord. 3 seconds remaining as Bullet finds a kill on towards Pala. He's going to try and step his way in. M-King finds a kill on towards Baringa, and the King continues. 12-0. He is flying still. I love it. I can say it all day long. M-King is flying. He's flying. He's like a plane.
M-King is absolutely unstoppable at the moment. There is no question of that. And MIBR are just going to be praying going forward from today that he can continue this form into the tournament. Because I tell you what, coming into the playoffs, MIBR might not be in the top half of the expectations. We've got some big teams in there that have had some great performances. But I tell you what, important at tournaments is form. It's all well and good coming in and being the best team, but if you don't hit form at the right time, you can quite easily lose to teams that you might not expect. So hitting this form might just be perfectly timed coming into those playoffs to see MIBR through to the live stages at the Blast Bell, and then who knows what will happen from there.
You see how really this house fell off a cliff. The only person delivering for Liquid right now is Nesk. He is 16 and 11 across both maps. Everyone else is negative in KD. But for the members of MIBR, all of them are generally starting to soar here. It's looking beautiful. That's now 11 rounds in a row that MIBR have won. We thought we saw Empire fall off the face of the earth earlier when they lost 7 rounds in a row to Fnatic. If you want to observe what that looks like in the second stage, well, look no further.
I think there's a few sleepless nights and nightmares coming along for Team Liquid tonight at this rate. They are going to walk out of here shell-shocked. They're going to wonder what happened. They're going to watch this back, I'm sure, and break it down, because right now MIBR are running rampant over them. Absolutely roughshod. 5-0 at the moment and looking at a potential 6-0 half on the attack. And as I suggested, MIBR coming here and taking the attack first of all. Great idea.
I still expect we're going to see Liquid sat in the front row, though, over at the main stage event, supporting MIBR the whole way through, and that much is always beautiful to see for these boys. Now, we are into Sunrise and Blue Bar on this site. Let's see how they can make this one work out for them. As always, Hugzord coming out on that Nomad. Let's not forget as well, this is the last round of the half before we see the switch, and Liquid get to go on towards the attack. They're going to have to work some wonders if they want to be able to completely reverse sweep this map and bring it back all the way into Kafe, where generally we have favoured them to win. We'll of course see if it comes down to that potentially in the next couple of rounds. hold inside of Aqua as well coming through. You can see those Yokai drones out once again. Crucially, I need to see Sexy Cake staying alive longer in these rounds. Those Yokai drones have been hunted down very well by M-King so far. In the last round, he found one inside of VIP. They've got to be ready to deal with that and make sure that he is alive to control them the longer these rounds go by, because as we all know, we saw it the heartbreak earlier on between BDS and Reciprocity. Yokai drones can win or lose best of threes.
He's just been using them very actively and a little bit, for my personal opinion, a little bit too aggressively. He's been going in there trying to actively stun people that are rushing into sight and dropping them off the ceiling, moving them around, and that's when they're at the weakest because they're visible. Once they're up on the ceiling and they use that active camouflage, they're very difficult to spot out, and they can feed all sorts of information and also prevent that plant. I mean, look, there's just one in the middle of the corridor on the floor there. You know, yeah, it's easy for us to see, there's an icon above it, but I tell you now, it's no more difficult for the attackers to see it when they move through there. So just needs to be aware of exactly where and what is happening with those drones.
Yeah, MIBR being given absolute freedom here inside of pool entrance to get Sunrise prepped for a rush. You've seen all the Zofia charges going through. You have seen the air judge being set up on the doorway. They are trying to lock this off as best they can and make it as hard as possible for Liquid to be able to resist. You can see him. Look to the left. How does he not see his body there? Surely that should have been a free kill onto him, but no, not quite to be the case. Stuck in this case, not finding himself a kill, but PSK does finally get down here inside a kitchen, and that is a small advantage going over to the side of MIBR right now. You can see how Liquid has set themselves up for a retake here with 2 or 3 members playing around kitchen, playing around hallway. I'm pretty sure MIBR will be very happy with that as they can now start looking to storming towards the site. You can also see both Yokais inside of Sunrise. They have done all they can to prep for this, but they are still losing members. PSK is still down. Nesk and Sexy Cake are all that Liquid have got left here, and even then, there is pressure being implied inside a kitchen.
I mean, essentially, there's nothing that Liquid can do here. Nesk gets himself a kill, and then it's traded out, and then we can see now this final kill will almost certainly come in 4 seconds. The diffuser is down, and now Nesk is in a very difficult situation, needing to find himself 4 kills. That's a double, and this will be an ace eventually if he does manage to clutch this out. But he is against the clock, and he's got about 23 seconds left to do something about this. He needs to find himself kills, and he cannot. The only one finding a kill will be Novice, and that puts MIBR on a straight, flawless attacking half, 6-0. Liquid just so unfortunate there. Look at PSK. He has his crosshairs on the window that somebody challenges him from, and he loses his life to it. At that point, sometimes you've just got to call the map and say, this one's not going to go in our favour.
What a miracle story it would be if they could turn this one around, but I think anyone looking at this lineup, that's now 12 rounds in a row. They lost on the first map. On their map choice, they're down 6-0. It is a miserable affair. Combined, the whole of Liquid have less kills than just M-King entirely by himself. And Liquid, the storyline for them sat as finishing 3rd not all that long ago, way back at the Allied Minor. 2nd at Montreal, 1st at the OJ Pit. And here, look to them and look to quite a few like it might turn out to be their time. MIBR say no. And that's it. That's the tweet. That is MIBR say no. That is the tweet. So 6-0 coming into MIBR's defensive phase now. This could be all she wrote for Team Liquid in terms of the Six Invitational 2020. They have to do something now. They are fighting for their lives here at the tournament every single round from now. Any mistakes will prove costly. MIBR will be looking for any opportunity that they can get to close this one out. They need 1 round. They are 1 round away from the playoffs. 1 round away from a somewhat unexpected victory, I think it's fair to say. It's definitely going that way. 3 minutes then is the countdown until the group stages have concluded. It may end sooner, depending on, of course, on how the frags go. But let's see if Liquid can now, by dictating their own pace. I always say, defenders dictate how things play, i.e. where the attackers have to attack from. It's the attackers who determine the pace. They get to choose how fast they move, how long they spend on drones, what areas they cover. That is at their own discretion. That was a very early C4 coming out, by the way, which, of course, as we saw, netted nothing. Even bringing the Warden here, which comes as quite a surprise, clearly terrified that they might find themselves getting flashed out. Unfortunately, there are only a couple of flashes on the other side by the looks of it. In fact, there's 6 in total if you include Sexy Cakes and Nesks. So Bullet is ready to be hardy and stand in the line of fire with some cool shades on. Cool guys don't look away from explosions, even if those explosions don't cause fire.
1 minute gone already. Liquid being reasonably cautious. You could see the drones going out ahead of them there. Sexy Kate way back inside, in spawn, sorry, still with the diffuser, almost certainly on his drone, feeding information. And this is where Liquid could excel. They can get power, they can get Nesk in there. We can see the drones working ahead of them.
Now he's been seen.
That's it. I think he was just not sure whether he'd been seen or not. The drone driving away from him, so potentially not seeing him. But if they can get Pala and Nesk working in as a duo together, we know how lethal they can be, and that is what Liquid need. They need them to get in there, get through the map and start picking up a couple of kills so they can be at a man advantage, 5 versus 3 maybe, before they start pushing to site.
Cyber rotated away from the southeast of the map there immediately. Once he'd only been seen by the drones, he probably knew there'd be a flank drone coming to watch them, and instead rotated in towards office to now push on the west side of the map instead and cover with his team. Now for once, Liquid will find the opening kill, and there is no response from the side of MIBR. Novice has gone down nice and early, and they now, at least for now, have the man advantage. Of course, with Sexy Cake on side on this Nomad 2, they can prevent some of these runouts and prevent some of the rotations like we saw early on from Cyber. Things have definitely slowed down though, and MIBR conceded a lot of map control very early. They gave control of Penthouse and Theatre. VIP was given over. The south side towards Aqua, it looks like mostly has been given over as well. They're just very content with holding towards site here, going for this very anchor-based play, which is generally indicated by things like the Goya being on side, like the Warden being picked up. They're happy to let Liquid come because MIBR are confident that when it comes down to it, they can win the gunfights.
There goes that Goyo shield, and it's just a great example of how and why they are used. There is no rush able to follow in behind that shield being destroyed, and it takes another 10 seconds off the clock and brings us down to 25 seconds before Liquid can start thinking about pushing onto this site. Cyber is still allowed to run free through VIP. He's coming back with a potential flank. Next with one, Bullet trades it out. Pala gets a double for himself, and this is not looking good for MIBR. 4-1 in favour of Liquid, and they take their first round after losing 12 consecutively, and that, I am sure, is going to work wonders for their mentality.
They still know there's a tough job ahead of them. There was no real outburst of celebration there because they know that they are in a spot where they've got to win 5 more rounds back to back. Cannot make a single mistake. Speaking of mistakes, M King has lost his throne. He's no longer 100% on cost. He was killed that round without consequence.
Oh dear.
Sad boys. Let's see if he can keep on making these things work though. 12-2 for him so far. Still works out to be a sizable chunk of the kills now garnered by the side of Team Liquid, as we now head in towards Hooker and Billiards once again. Clearly MIBR feel they knew what went wrong there because they are bringing almost an identical setup. And we're going to see that duel, no doubt, once again between the Valkyrie and the IQ. This is the reason why you bring the IQ so much, as it can deal with a lot of the gadgets that you will see deployed by the enemy side. That includes the back-eye cameras, it includes the pests coming out of Novice as well. It just helps when you can run around on the roof and basically go, down there's a gadget. Down there's a gadget, and the team can act off the back of that and either not drone a certain area, or they can push there and clear out that utility, sometimes from below as well. So it's all about teamwork and communication when you have an IQ on side.
Round number 8 then, 6-1 in favour of MIBR, and if Team Liquid are going to get anything out of this fixture, we're going to have to see the mother of all runbacks, as they have to go 6 consecutively without loss here. They cannot allow MIBR to take a single round. Every single round from here on until we reach 6-all will be match point. Not just match point, but series point for MIBR, and it will take them into those playoffs on Tuesday and Wednesday, and more importantly, we'll see Liquid go home.
I love that skin on the Mozzie gun, by the way.
It's very nice.
Very colourful, absolutely.
I think, is it the Six Invitational skin, the green and yellow one?
Possibly.
I think it.
That's it right there. Looks nice. I mean, they did try to go for a run out once again there, as you saw, but nothing to really be found. So MIBR, well, not quite finding the success they were looking for. Liquid also being cautious. Again, they are aware every single mistake will cost them here. So I think what they're trying to do potentially is say, right, let's make sure we slow things down a bit. It might take us a bit longer to achieve our objective. That is fine, because the consequence for getting it wrong is knockout from the tournament. Looking now towards office, though, you still got Cyber holding down this side of the map. So this west side right now is fully held by the members of MIBR. It'll be Pala trying to challenge in towards Aqua up above, and you can see one holding off here towards security just through the lens. In fact, sorry, I lie, that's on the downstairs, not on the balcony. It's Cyber in towards security, also now pushing in towards lobby. Moringa's got a drone at the top of the stairs in case a rotation does come through, and immediately look, there are now 3 members on the southwest side of this for Liquid. So going for a take on this side of the map to then try and push through Aqua and go for a plant. The reason why they've got one downstairs below them, I think he's actually now joined them on the top floor, is to make sure no one is inside of office with a C4 and ready ready to try and disrupt you. It looks like someone actually is, though. It's Cyber down there still. If this was a Valkyrie, they would be in a lot of trouble, but Bullet currently is situated on the upstairs, way back inside of Hooker.
Valkyrie or Novice would do the Mozzie as well, with the potential for a C4. If you're going to achieve anybody in Office, it really should be one with one of those in hand. Nest getting himself a good kill onto Cyber there, and that's exactly what Liquid need. They need their talisman players. They need Nesk. They need Power to start stepping up and getting these kills. We saw Power get himself a couple in the last round, and that is what's going to drive Liquid to success, if anything is. We are 5 versus 4 here. Still plenty of time on the clock. Liquid now in complete control of the aquarium side. They need to watch the luggage for the push coming from the flank potentially, but I don't think at this point in time that MIBR have got anybody in a position to do that. It looks like they're happy to just turtle up in sight here and try and wait things out and let Liquid come into their crosshairs.
Got to be really careful. His Men King's very much so positioned by himself. Misses that spray on towards the head, and I was going to say they know exactly where he is. That will be an instant trade, though, so that will count towards his cost. Don't worry about that. Pala is traded out by Bullet almost immediately, and there is very much so a war now taking place for Hookah. Not yet securing any more kills inside there. Nest is going to find one on towards Hugzord, and Liquid will steamroll their way through as Nest finds 2. PSK the final one, and Liquid will continue their revenge tour.
Do you remember what I've said, Des, previously about casting 12-round matches?
Yes. Surely not in this one. Surely not.
You say this. You say this. I've said stranger things have certainly happened. Liquid getting themselves a little bit of momentum now. We cannot overstate the level of ability and talent that is available to that Liquid roster. As I keep saying, Power, Nesk particularly. PSK had a great day yesterday. If those 3 can get fragging and get firing, this could become very, very difficult. We can see Nesk on 9 there, Power joining him up on 6, 15 kills between the two of them, and they just slowly edging the way, closer and closer and closer to those top MIBR fraggers. And as they can level this out, for me, the next 2 rounds are pretty important. If they can get themselves back to 6-4, you start having that belief then. Then you start thinking, we've got 4 in a row, we've got serious momentum, we've beaten them on probably every site by that point, or at least every site they're going to play, and you're up at within touching distance. And then you start to get in MIBR's head then.
That's where my fear lies. I was going to comment it before you started. That piece there was that we have only seen the same site played twice now. It was Hooker and Billiards both times. Now we're seeing Sunrise and Blue Bar. So a bit of an alteration coming through for the side of MIBR. Not that you'd be able to tell, because they've got all 5 members currently upstairs doing a lot of reinforcement work from above. So their focus very clearly is on a vertical hold. So very commonly in Siege, we've probably spoken about this before, but bear with us. Horizontal holds, vertical holds. Horizontal being where you spread out on the same floor. Vertical where you play from above and aim to defend the site without being on the site itself. Very commonly see things like this taking place on border at the moment, seeing exactly the same sort of setup coming through here from MIBR. The approach from the other side will very rarely be to rush site because you will be caught out by the angles that are open in the floor by the defending team. So let's see if they actually have to go for a war on the top floor. I fully expect they will. And most importantly, if Liquid can keep this comeback train going. 2 rounds currently to them on the attacking side of Coastline. They're going to have to turn into a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th. If they're going to have any hope of forcing this through to a 3rd map.
So we can see Sexy Cake and Moringa just on the drones there, looking to get an idea of exactly what is going on in Hooker. We can see a lot of utility has been expended on that top floor, and Liquid are moving in quickly to try and start clearing it out. The deployable shield here is going to be very important. It's going to really help that man stay safe behind that Hooker bar and try to challenge as late as he can. But the hatch is open next to him, so he can just drop immediately straight back to site as needs be, but that can be a dangerous hatch to allow the attackers to use, so they need to try and hold on to that area for as long as possible. They don't want to give that over too soon. We can see not too much initial pressure coming from Liquid here. They are being slow and methodical. That's a great grenade. They needed rid of that deployable shield just to really make Cyber feel the danger a little bit more, and I tell you what, he will feel it after that. Moringa stepping up and getting a great headshot onto him. Novice, though, is still holding down from the Hooker door. They don't want to give that up just yet, but it's not going to matter as Moringa sends in a grenade and gets his 2nd on the round. Bullet will step up with a great double kill. Pala and Nesk off the board. 3 versus 3 now with a minute to go. Could this be the round for MIBR?
Bullet running through fire there. Literally a trial by fire as he finds 2 kills whilst running through his own team's Goyo shield. Not dying to it, but being put down to 25 HP. That should definitely start slowing things down. Let's not forget They are assaulting towards the top floor right now. The sights are downstairs inside of Sunrise and Blue Bar. Control had to be taken by Liquid on the top floor before they could start looking downstairs, and they are still trying to find it now. Look at Bullet as well. He currently is rotating through the south side. He might yet find the sledge here. Yes, he will. Moringa goes down. That's a triple kill for Bullet. Potentially, that is all they need. Another down comes through, this time onto Hugzord though. PSK finding that one, and no one should now be covering out this west side towards the ruins.
30 seconds left to go. This could be the end of Liquid's life in terms of the Six Invitational. Hugzord is finished off, 2 versus 2. Team Liquid have to do something in the next 20 seconds. PSK will die trying as M-King, who else gets the kill onto him? We can see Sexy Cake has got the diffuser going down. He's in the default plant spot. M-King is watching. That Nitro Toss will be affected by the air jab. We can see M-King gets the final kill, and then all that will be for to do is Bullet to move in, disable the diffuser. He's got all the time in the world, and MIBR will win 2-0 and head into the playoffs on Tuesday and Wednesday. And you can see as the team jump up from their computers just how much that means.
Except for M-King with head in hands, I don't think he can believe it. The emotion, no doubt they are feeling right now, beating a team they have lost to consistently every single time they have faced them. I'm pretty sure he's in tears. That is honestly a touching moment to see. God bless these boys, and what a game by M-King. That was the game of his life.
What a great example of the emotion and passion involved in esports, and in particular Siege. Look at Team Liquid. They are really cut up. It is no surprise. They're going to go away feeling like they haven't given the best performance that they can. We can see here Hugs coming in aplenty. These two are great friends. We've seen it before. I'm sure that Liquid will be supporting MIBR going forward, but for tonight, it's not going to be an easy one. It will be a bitter pill to swallow.
I genuinely almost feel emotional myself over Nest there as well, because he played so ridiculously well. A broken man, needless to say. Everyone's giving even condolences there from the
It's one of the MIBR players, and that is just what more of a statement do you need as a region, how much they support each other. The MIBR players all gathering around Nesk. They know how much it means to him. They know how much it would mean to them, and they're all there consoling him. What a great display of teams, you know, of sportsmanship.
Sportsmanship is the word you're after there. This is the kind of stuff we need to see more in Siege. More teams acknowledging that sometimes there are losses, sometimes whenever there is a victor, there is a loser, and consoling each other is the best thing you can do. Honestly, really touching there, but no doubt, again, that these teams will still be supporting each other all the way through. And I don't mean to kind of light a spark under some flame here, but compare that to Tier 7 SSG. They're at each other all the time. It's a full-on rivalry. With these guys, it's two sets of pals playing against each other and really going at it.
It really is, and they really did go at it, and MIBR just came out with a great performance there on Coastline. To say it wasn't their map.
Both maps.
Yeah, both maps were very good, but Coastline was absolutely clinical. 6-0 in the first half, and it always just felt like a matter of time on the defence before they managed it. We can see their Bullet getting some great kills on Cool Vibes, and that was followed by that great step into the breach from Novice.
One thing I didn't have time to say at the time, sorry for that play from Bullet, was actually the use of the stuns there as well. The stuns and the flashes coming out. Every single time he was suspecting that someone might be pushing him, he threw one out. They weren't really there to set himself up to rush downstairs and try and find 2 or 3 kills and be the hero player. It was to slow down the defenders from rushing up those stairs, like we said earlier on. Beautiful stuff. Honestly, super happy that MIBR has seen some kind of vengeance, if you want to call it, redemption, maybe, after the OGA pit minor.
There's a lot of celebrating going on right now.
Throw me off, because I can hear it in the backdrop, just them cheering and shouting. Like, again, for MIBR, this means the world to them, no doubt. You can see how much it meant to Nest to lose this one out as well. On one side of them, you got one player with their head in their hands in absolute glee. On the other side, in absolute sadness. But one thing is for sure, Liquid will most definitely be back. They are currently second, I want to say, in Pro League and LATAM. They're a team that's doing pretty well. Let's not forget about that.
Of course, and it's never something that you want to see, but it just shows the emotion that goes with this game and how invested these players are. You know, somebody like Nesk, you don't get to be one of the best in the world by playing a couple of hours a week. You know, his entire life has been sunk into this game, and this is the pinnacle of his year at Six Invitational, and it's just come crashing down. It is a tough loss to take, but as you say, I'm sure that they will be back.
They absolutely will bounce down. But tell you what, let's go through each of the brackets one by one before we reveal to you, of course, how things have completely ended out here. Starting things off, we saw Dark Zero and Fnatic progress through this one. We spoke through these groups already during the pause earlier on in Clubhouse. We won't spend too much time on them. But Dark Zero, I think expected. Fnatic, definitely unexpected. I think anyone would have put Empire down to beat them in the decider match, but they didn't. Let's take a look at Group B, which is where we had 2 EU teams and 2 NA teams. And this time round, it was the 2 NA teams that prevailed. Na'Vi being sent home in the decider match against TSM earlier today, and Rogue, their land curse continues.
NA massive.
NA, no. Let's not get that started. We need to see Group D first for this exact reason. Let's take a look at Group C.
Let's take a look at Group C. So we've just seen Group C finish up. It was the All LATAM group. I'm sure it will appear for you in a second.
Tell you what, you saying let's see Group C has sent production into panic because they've got to edit that group image as fast as they can. Cool, MIBR are in, done.
I tell you that was fast, wasn't it?
It was pretty
well, given the do, they are the fastest production in the West. So Group C, we could see there it was the LATAM group, MIBR, Team Liquid and Ninjas in Pyjamas, all in there together along with Giants Gaming. Giants Gaming just finding themselves a little bit out of the depth, but plenty of work and growth for them to do as a team. Ultimately, we've just seen NIP and MIBR progress into the playoffs, and we will take a quick look at Group D, which was the final one with G2 in there, and I'm sure we'll bring that up for you in a second. We had G2 and BDS, who ultimately progressed from Group D, and quickly off I don't need it quickly off the top of my head. Reciprocity and Wildcard were the 2 that were lost out and went home from there.
EU Massive. This is the
EU Massive.
There we go. Forget NA Massive, it's EU Massive now, because you can't say UK Massive anymore. It's done and dusted for the UK, needless to say. Now, we are very happy to be able to reveal to you the playoff bracket. We haven't seen this yet. We don't know who's playing against who. Let's get that up on screen and see what that bracket looks like so we know what the seedings are. Looking down that list, I tell you what, there are going to be some angry analysts on Reddit seeing G2 come up against Fnatic. That will look like a free win to some, but Fnatic have already dismantled Empire. G2 are next in their sights. It's NIP, the #1 coming out of LATAM, coming up against TSM, Space Station versus MIBR, what a scorcher that will be, and Dark Zero versus BDS. A pretty well-distributed bracket, I think, actually.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. Obviously, there were comments about the, the group stage and the LATAM teams all going in together. I think that's fantastic there. We've got a real mixture. We've got NA versus LATAM, we've got EU versus APAC, we've got EU versus NA in there. We've got a real mixture, and that's what we like to see. So we're going to have NIP, TSM, and they will play the winners of G2 Fnatic. That could be absolutely huge. That is a mouth-watering upper bracket semi-final.
I love the look of it. That distribution makes things very exciting. And again, Tuesday and Wednesday is when those games will be kicking off before Final 6 proceed through to the stage at Plaspel later on Friday, Saturday and Sunday of next week. That looks exciting. I'm ready for that now. That bracket generally looks, again, evenly distributed. No one's really going to be crying too much bias, except for maybe G2. We'll see. Initial thoughts on that. Your favourite fixture out of those ones that we just saw? If you
Dark Zero BDS.
Why?
It's going to be absolutely huge, I can tell you now. You've got contrasting styles. You've got BDS who like to play aggressively, unpredictably. You've got Dark Zero who generally play in a more structured way. We saw them play so well against Empire, though. It's mouth-watering just the prospect of seeing them play again, let alone against a team as talented as BDS.
Absolutely. It's going to be very, very exciting, no doubt. But the end of that fixture, the reveal of the playoff brackets, shows the end of the group stages of the Six Invitational. Now, these games are never about the casters, it's always about the players, it's about the tournament, it's about the celebration of the game itself. But myself and Ace, I think it's pretty fair to say, have had a wonderful time this weekend. Lots of memes have come out of it. We've had the Aussie on the Mozzie, we've had the Brom accent that I tried to impersonate poorly early on. I apologise for that. The sexy cape from this fine gentleman, as well as some interesting dress choices, I'm sure you will agree. Ace, it's been incredible.
It has been an absolute dream when you get the invitation to come and work somewhere like this, the biggest tournament on earth as far as our game is concerned. It is an absolute honour and a pleasure. I'd like to extend thanks on behalf of me and Des to everybody here, production, makeup, observers, particularly the organisations that have invited us, ESL and Ubisoft. We are more grateful than we could possibly articulate, but hopefully we've brought you some enjoyment, we've brought you some excitement, and I think we've brought you 1 or 2 laughs as well. And maybe a few fashion tips for a few people out there, who knows? We've had an absolute storm doing this. It has been an honour and a pleasure, it really has. And I'm sad that I don't get to cast more games tomorrow.
But you know what we do get to be excited about? We now get to join you guys from behind that end of the screen as the fans, and we get to witness some incredible games. We're back on Tuesday, where I believe the analysts have now flown in, so the full talent roster will be joining us for those games. Well, not joining us, but joining everybody else. We'll see you guys on that side of the screen as we get to bear witness to some of the best games of Siege we will ever see. Thank you for an incredible few days, and we will see you again on Tuesday.